They say that content is king, but what makes a king a king? Of course, in some small part, it's genetics. You have to be related to the guy who was king previously. But is it just his title? Is it his legacy? Is it the story of his reign? In no small part, it's his aesthetics. A castle, a throne, a crown, an army, well outfitted and organized. These things make you take him seriously. They make you pay attention to what he's saying, and your copy is the exact same. Sure, the most important part is your story, it's your title, but you need people to pay attention. You need people to take you seriously. And if you have all these amazing words and they're all crammed together in something ugly, if your aesthetics are off, people aren't going to respect you. And then all of your hard work will be wasted. So before the internet, before radio, before television, came newspapers and the printing press. If you wanted to get attention, how you laid out your text was super important. It was the difference between being the biggest in the business and shuttering your doors. So what part should be bold? What part should be bold? What part should be larger or smaller? What part should be bold? What part should be larger or smaller? Where is it smart to put an image? Let's figure it out by studying the people whose entire livelihood depended on it. And for us to learn this in a modern day, let me just double check, of course, that I am in fact recording. Okay, so I've done this song and dance before, baby, and I don't want to do it again. So in order for us to master this in the modern day, in the digital age, let's go back. Let's figure out what people whose entire livelihood depended on it, the newspapers, what they were doing. All right. So we have William Randall Hearst. He's the one who broke the Spanish-American War story, right? He was covering it in 1898, and Hearst was sympathetic to the Cuban revolt and wanted the United States to support the Cuban cause. And a war was a good way to sell newspapers. So as the story goes, Hearst told artist Frederick Remington to cover the revolt. And when Remington wired Hearst that the situation was quiet in Cuba, Hearst allegedly said, "You furnish the pictures and I'll furnish the war." When the American battleship Maine blew up in the Havana harbor in Cuba, an event that prompted the America to go to war with Spain. When the American battleship Maine blew up in Havana harbor in Cuba, America declared war. When the American battleship of Maine blew up in Havana harbor in Cuba, America declared war on Spain. And Hearst's journal was quick to place the blame on Spain in bold print. However, that is almost certainly not the case. In truth. There's evidence that it may have been the Cubans, could have been the U.S. naval. There's evidence it may have been the Cubans, not the Spanish. The U.S. Naval Court ruled that in the 1970s that the explosion was likely caused by a fire and not by the Spanish or Cubans. Some suspect foul play and some even suspect foul play to form a casus belli so that America could enter the war and blame Spain and go to war and enforce the Monroe Doctrine on them. But the point still stands. The newspaper makes its living on words, and how they lay it out, how they get the picture is extremely important for landing their punch. But the point still stands. The newspaper makes its living on words, on pictures, on what's bolded and what's not, and they need to get that right in order to sell papers, and that has immense power. So you can see, obviously, we've got the big explosion being illustrated. We've got Spain guilty. That's a huge one. Maine explosion caused by bomb or torpedo. We're really going for the let's cause a war angle with these titles, and we're really going for it's Spain's fault with these titles. But then you look around and you see, man, there's a lot of things that are bolded, right? That's one of the interesting things that I think we can learn from newspapers is it's not like a landing page, which is what I do a lot of, and what we'll work on later today when we're designing. You have a lot to say. You have a lot of things vying for attention. There are a lot of stories at any one time. So, we have to say, okay, we're the world. Okay, what have we done? We have 863,956 world circulated yesterday. Okay, so we're doing some social proof about what the world, how much they're publishing. People clearly care about what they're doing, right? Then we have Maine explosion caused by bomb or torpedo. Captain Sigbee and Consul General Lee are in doubt. The world has something. Why did I cover that up? The special tug. Hold up. I can fix this. There we go. There we go. There we go. It looked nice, but it kept me from reading it. So there we go. Are in doubt. The world has sent a special tug with submarine divers to Havana to find out. Lee asked for immediate court of inquiry. Captain Sigbee's suspicious. All right, so we've established a couple characters, some suspicion. We keep going on that Captain Sigbee suppressed dispatch. Yeah, dispatch the State Department. Says the accident was made possible by the enemy. All right, so we just keep going. All right, on this other side, we have something similar where we have to say it's the New York Journal, but then we have this whole extra column on the side where we're talking about the president gives news of Maine report. Okay, so it's the same thing. We're covering the same thing. Down below, we've got Evening Journal's exclusive forecast by the president, facts on which Congress will have to act. All right, so we're covering different things, different stories, all related to this. How do you pick what gets the attention? You see, these are all different sizes, sometimes different fonts, sometimes they're all caps, sometimes they're not. This is difficult to do. Figure out, what do I want to draw the most attention to? And even then, you have to still draw your attention to other things. We were talking about this when we were talking about good copywriting from some of the best in the past. So you had people like, I think we read a Claude Hopkins. We definitely read, we definitely read a David Ogilvy. Definitely read a Dan Kennedy. And you see how they lay things out in print is really important. It's how they get attention, how they keep attention. So today we're going to learn how to do that. We're going to learn how do you make 5 or 6 different versions of bowls? How do you organize things in columns? How do you use pictures in a way that kind of guides people through a whole process? They know what to look at next. You get everything emphasized that is actually going to help you make a sale, and then you can underemphasize the rest of it so it's easy to make your way through and scan through if you want to, and actually take your time and get all the information if you don't want to. So some version of this has been around for a while. I think the very first one I ever saw was on the far left. It was just like a wraparound. We're looking for a graphic designer. But there's been so many copycat sets, and I can't even guarantee that was the original. Here's my, it's kind of Christmas mug. It's nowhere near Christmas. It's June. But this is my kind of Christmas, kind of fire department mug that I painted, but anyway. All right. Your words are deeply shaped by how they appear, right? So here they're actually doing something that's kind of lame in a way that's effective. And design can be good or bad, but the design that you have, it impacts the words that you use. What's the theme? What's your goal? What's the call to action? And does your design complement your words? Here it does. Obviously, it's kind of bad in a place where design is typically good, but that's working in their favor in this case. And see how... And this is something I talked about a little bit before, I think, which was there's always this question about, does design or copy come first? And I'm very fortunate that I do both sides of it. So I'd spend a lot of time doing landing pages. That's my biggest emphasis. And what I like about it is there's both design and copy, but I'll do the same thing for emails and for ads as well. But the thing is, you don't, I've never been, the thing is, I've never been in a situation where it's actually obvious which one comes first. Most of the time what happens is I lay out basically the structure of what I want to do. I'll have note cards or bullet points on a piece of paper, and I'll say, okay, I'll put them in this order, right? So I basically, if it was a landing page, I'll start with something like the 12-gauge landing page. I'll write it down. I'll figure out like what bullet points need to go under each one, and then what order it makes the most sense to present them in for the story I'm trying to tell on the page. But that's it. Then it's like, okay, now the design has to come in. Now the design has to put those things in a way that feels cohesive, in a way that uses, if I have 3 points, do I want them to be in bullets or do I want them to have their own columns? So I'm going to actually lay that out, and then I can properly write. So you saw the other day when I wrote long form about what each of the backpack people were trying. And it was like, okay, or what they wanted in their loadout. And then it was like, okay, well, actually, I think this is way too long. I think it'd be way better if I restructured this into 4 columns with just some bullet points under it. So that time I went really hard on the copy, so I ended up having to delete stuff because I did the design afterwards. But typically I go, it's so annoying, copy outline, design outline, full copy, full design. That's typically how I do it, but I have the luxury of being an all-in-one person for landing pages. So yeah. It's important. The point here is that design can often come first before the copy does. I think a lot of copywriters probably yourself included. If you're coming here like, hey, copywriting is a great way to make money, you're thinking, oh, the copy should come first. And I agree with you. The messaging is the most important part, right? That's your goal. But the copy outline often comes first before all of the copy comes, right? Because the design is going to make some serious impacts on your words. All right. Here's a big one, the US attacked. I think I was trying to get at this a little bit early when we were talking about this, but here, they only have one, maybe 2 or 3 stories that are all related to the same thing. This is a great example of how there's so many more things to talk about. And again, they've got multiple pictures. They're all kind of talking about the same thing, right? We've got the New York Times, the volume, the date, the cost, all the news that's fit to print. So we've got some branding up there in the upper left-hand corner. US attacked, big bold thing. Subtitle, hijacked jets destroy Twin Towers. All right. Now, if I were making a landing page, I call this an H1. So typically you have, these are headers, right? And you have H1 through H6 in your coding. And so they're going to have different formats, but you really only have like 6 things to work with. You can override it, but it's generally good just to work with your 6. But it'd be like H1, H2, H3. H4, H5. So you see how that would kind of work through there. But you'll notice that this H3 is it's different between all those different stories. That's a weird one, right? That's not how I would do it on a landing page. That's not very proper, but it does something because, well, we naturally read left to right on newspapers or really on anything. And so this all caps version is pulling some attention, but this one is actually larger and bolder. So it's probably important that we say President vows to exact punishment for evil. Now the next 2 down are less important. A somber bush says terrorism cannot prevail. That looks like a slightly smaller print version of this up here. And then awaiting the aftershocks is the weakest of all. It's italics, it's thin, it's not all caps. But look, it has more negative space around it. So while all this is a little bit crammed in there, it's like, peace. So somehow that's attracting our attention again. And really, they want you, when you're reading this, to kind of go, US attack, hijacked jets, bing. US attacked, hijacked jets, bing, 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 bing. That's how they want you to read that, bing, 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 bing. You're just kind of jumping from the titles. And you can tell that because this is more important than this, and you can see all this at once. So this is something I talk about is there's really 2 types of people that read your work. There's the scanners, and then there's the people who are skeptics. And the scanners and the skeptics both had different goals. The scanners just want to like figure out what's happening really fast, and the skeptics, they need more information to buy. I don't know that they're skeptical about 9/11, though of course there are those people. This is more about like, some people are going to close read this and jump in, but this has to appeal to the scanners. And even for skeptics, they're like, why would I pick this newspaper over another one? They're going to scan for which one they're going to buy, and then they'll read the whole thing in depth later, right? So you have to design your stuff for both people. I think it's important that we look at it from this distance and not really zoom up on these words here, because they're not that important. What's important is that we're taking in the whole form of it and try and figure out what they're doing to catch our attention. So, when you make a landing page or an email, will not have something like this. One, you have some minimum font sizes you need for digital, which is 16 points. If you go below 16 points, technically you could probably be sued. That's an accessibility thing. Technically, outside of that, like if you do a caption under a picture or something, you can go down to like a 10 or a 12. There are special cases for things that are like non-necessary parts of the page. Like image descriptions, but for the main stuff that you have to read, it should be large enough. Okay, so because of that, you're not going to ever get anything this small. You're not going to be able to cram it in like that. And you're never going to have a landing page or a screen that's shaped like that. Technically, like I have my monitor over here, I have it horizontal. Technically, you've got some coders out there who will throw out a vertical monitor. That's not happening. That is not happening. That you should typically be designing for that. It could happen, man, but it's so rare. That would be an exceptional thing to design for. Anyways, all that being said, they've done some really good things here where the intended way, because the medium we're working with can be vertical, that they want you to take in that Z-shaped story there. You're not going to have that option on a landing page, but it's good to see like, okay, here's how I emphasize 4 different things to people, right? So now let's and then of course, that's all text, right? We haven't even talked about the images, and the images are doing the heavy lifting here. US attacked is a big deal. That fireball is what's making the whole story, right? You furnish the picture, I'll furnish the war. That's it, man. That fireball, that sent a lot of people to the Middle East, right? And then after that, immediately after the explosion, you see firefighters just struggling, and it's right next to a somber bush. That's a nice combination there. We see people being helivacked. We see someone who's suffering a grave injury on the bottom there. And so the emotion goes from the first pain point, the shock, the awe, the horror, and then just pain and suffering, right? Really great organization. And then this one where you see the plane flying in, it gets way less real estate, right? So it's well laid out. And then you see more on the attacks. You got some more bolding down here. It's an interesting organization. You can take it all in, right? I think, again, the main point here is that we use different fonts and weights and everything so that people are almost compelled to look at those 4 different spots before moving on. Interesting strategy, kind of only works for the vertical thing. All right, so the Boston Globe, what are we doing here? We've got maybe less dramatic of a thing. The last 2 have been like world art altering events, and everything on the page is all talking about one thing. And for us, in many ways, that's a good thing, because for landing pages, we're talking about following the rule of one. One reader, it's RIOA, one reader, there we go. One reader, one idea, there it is. One reader, one idea, one offer, one action. That's how we want to make a landing page. That's how we want to make social media. That's how we want to make emails. All right, so you want to stay focused up, stop getting so distracted. But here, I think as an extreme, it's interesting to kind of play with this, right? The Boston Globe here has several stories they're trying to The Boston Globe has several stories that they're trying to share all at the same time. Lots of different weights, lots of different capitalizations, and they all grab attention in different ways for totally different stories. So what do we have on top? So the Boston Globe is probably the most important thing here. And yet we're almost blind to this section here. So we're jumping right here. I think that's the big story. Time nearly up, committee failing to reach a deficit deal. Okay, that's a big story. And then they say more on page 9. We can only sacrifice so much here. Healthcare not buying it. Okay, that's all above the fold. I think that's pretty good, because when we talk about creating an open loop, what do you mean not buying it? What are we even talking about with healthcare? You might feel compelled to pick up the paper. That's pretty well done. All right. Next one I look at, state falls short on affordable housing. Construction drops over past 5 years. Okay, that doesn't feel like a very big story. Kind of surprised there. That might all be related to deficit deal, maybe. Doesn't look like it on a cursory glance. Next, I look at this guy. Don't really know what's happening, so I go down. Thousands of protesters forced Egyptian troops to retreat. Okay, I kind of got what I wanted there. And then I actually head up here. I don't go down here. Opposition conservatives won power in Spain. I don't look at that next. Next, I go up, Patriots water set to face his old mates. I'm like, okay, I don't even care about that. And then not frozen out. They've got so many competing stories here, and you see, bigger, same font, same weight, smaller, different weight, same font. Now we switch fonts. It's thinner up here. This is what's known as a serif. It has these, see, it goes like that. It curves out. It's more human. It looks like you're using like a big quill. It has those little oddities. And then here, this looks like it was made by a machine. You could never write like this, right? It's a very pick up move. There's no whooshes from a pen. And so you can easily tell that those are different fonts, right? So anyways, all that to say, there's a lot going on here. They're all kind of competing here. We've got health and sports callouts on top, and we have a protester being sprayed or shot in the upper left-hand corner over here for the Egyptian protesters, right? So you can make stuff compete a lot, and you see how the more emphasis you put on text or pictures, it kind of creates a waterfall effect of how you're going to scan through things. And you want to make sure, you have to think very carefully about what that order is and how people are going to read it when they're going through your stuff. All right, same thing. Very, very simple here. Ike versus Kirsch. Why did this only get one image? It's the only one that's important, right? And so we're going to try really hard to be like, all right, again, we're kind of blind to this. I don't care about that. Ike strikes back at Kirk. Kirk attack on Ike, disgusting. Herder says, U.S. protest, Cuban wave of slander. Next, I think I go AG Mayor Jr. Realtor dies. I'm trying to go to Fast Jet Bomber, but then I see Guns Roar, Fast Jet Bomber. President says no one dares attack on USA. There's a lot of separate stories there. I think the story itself is less compelling than to me as a modern than some of those, but this might have been really relevant at the time. This is considered one of the more relevant. This is one of the most impactful headlines ever, right? Eventually we get color, and that's a new element we get to play with, right? So you notice suddenly we've got some more uniformity and stuff. So here's all the things that they cover. Everything, so we've got a serif up here, but basically everything is this all caps sans serif. We can use dark on light. We can move our images off of things to kind of break outside. So like if I'm looking at these three here, these do not stand out anywhere near as much as this Nintendo Switch thing where we're winning a Nintendo Switch because it comes off out of this container here. That's a cool move. Then we're going to use red, blues, greens, and yellows to really grab attention. And yet we have all the same. Now we're getting into that like H1, H2, H3 thing. All right, so we've got in H1 for first news, maybe we call that a logo, and this in H1, a walking car. Then we've got this H3, maybe I call this here. And look, it's the same one as over here. And then that's the same thing, just in a different color. So all of a sudden we're getting more uniformity things. We can use more color, and sometimes we can even use a lack of color. We can actually use black and white to stand out more, weirdly enough. We can use different colors to create hierarchy. I think the blue stands out more than the green. It's very cool. Most designers probably 5 to 10 years ago would not have had this many colors on a page. I've seen a real trend recently where people start using lots of colors. You just kind of pick like a tone. Like if you're going to have pastels, you're going to work with pastels the whole time. If you're going to have kind of like, these aren't the Crayola colors, right? These are like a slightly more watered down. Technically you're mixing in a little bit of white into your red there. And then you mix the same amount of white into your blue and the same amount of white into your green. So you have this just slightly faded color. A tint is what happens when you add white. When you add black, it's a shade. Just a little bit of color theory for you there. But that's how you would do that. Now, you don't have to do this. As a copywriter, do not worry about picking your colors. You'll often be working for a brand that's already picked colors. If not, it's very easy to just look up color palettes and just straight steal them. Other designers have done your work. Same thing for fonts. I'm getting a little technical about the serifs and the sans serifs and this and that. You can go and just look up font pairings and you're good to go. So don't worry too much about this. I did think it was important for you to kind of get the theory of this. So I think this is important before because, you know, all of a sudden we've got way more pictures. We've got pictures all over the place, way more colors. It's popping out. This is a lot more like what you're going to be working with on landing pages. So how does that work in landing pages? Well, I pulled together some great designs. Unfortunately, ClickFunnels has changed their layout. I used to love this layout. They still have a good one. But the sad truth is you see that they have a video there where they're saying click to turn on the sound. The sad reality is people aren't watching videos on landing pages very often anymore. And the reason why is because no one wants to turn on the freaking audio. And so if you want to have a video, you have to have something that's more heavy on the motion graphics and not on video. But all of the screenshots I put in here were back when videos were doing a little bit better, which is only like a year ago, which is wild. So, all right. All that is much different for landing pages. I think that's the starting point here. But you see how we have on ClickFunnels here, we have an H1. I call that an H2, an H4. If we scroll down a little bit further, the actual text of the paragraphs would not be this big. So we have H1, H2, H4, H5, and then below we'll have our paragraph thing. So you can see how you use this. Here we have 1, 2, 3, white, light blue, grayish, darker light blue, that's 4. All right, so we have 4 colors more or less that we're working with here. And there'll be more further down the page. Same thing with the Wicked Protein thing, just a really well-designed email. We're mostly sticking within the same font, but we're playing with 2 different colors. And this probably isn't the regular colors. You see, we've got this sort of consistent red, blue, yellow, just with a certain tint to it, right? But for the holidays, for Christmas, we're gonna say green, red, those are our colors, and this tan that we're working with. So all of a sudden we've got more things. You're seeing that uniformity in text come in, and we're starting to play more with color. And when you have bold, sometimes you'll have something that's, do we have any all caps here? I'm shocked that they didn't use all caps somewhere. That seems like their MO, but they did know all caps here. But here we were able to play with that. You know, we had something, both of these are serifs. Sorry, both of these are sans serifs, and so they don't have, see, that's kind of a very human font thing, but it's technically a serif where you have the kind of pen-like effect. Here we don't have that, and so we have to have an extra way to differentiate them. And so we have this bold one that's all caps, and then this non-bold one that's not all caps. So very, very cool ways you can make these stand out. So how you lay things out and how you illustrate things will have a massive impact on what you write and what the impact is. And to be a good copywriter, you really genuinely have to understand design. I know I'm going a little heavy on it. This is gonna be the one time where we really talk. This is not gonna be something that you have to hit all the time. It's just important that you understand this well enough that you can either, like when I make stuff, do I even have one here? It'd be really cool if I had something I could show you here. Yeah, there you go. Making sure I don't have anything that's super important. Yeah. Okay, so this is typically what I do. Like, I'll do that. I'm like, this is how I want to lay things out. There you go. Boom, bam, boom. And here's my bullet point. So I almost always separate it off this way, where I have like 1/3 of it for me to actually draw the long, how things are laid out. And then 2/3 of it where I actually kind of say, here's the stuff I want to organize in what order. So I start over here, and then I move over here where I put things in shape. So, you know, I obviously have some design instincts there, but I'm not having to do the whole thing. That just helps me know, like, okay, once I have that layout that I've drawn out, then I know, okay, now I can go to Google Docs and I can figure out exactly what I want to fill my page with. But if you're going to be like me, I highly recommend that order if you want to try and do design and copy. If you're just starting out, I would suggest just starting with copy. Find a designer out there that you can work with. They might be in-house. If you have good design instincts, then great, go for it. All that to say, it's important that you know design well enough that you work well with the people around you. So I don't know that much about coding, but I know HTML and CSS well enough that I can make kind of a crappy landing page on my own. Mostly I use drag and drop. It's made way easier, or Figma, really. Most of the time I use Figma and someone else will code the dang thing for me. But it's important that you understand it well enough to talk the talk with them, to know how to, it really increases your flow that you can bounce off with people and be like, oh, I get what you're thinking. There we go. Let's do it that way. Or you go to your designer and say, I was thinking about maybe structuring it like this. And they go, well, actually, I think I was doing it like this. And you go, great. Actually, that works really well because I can write this thing that way to make it work. So we're not going to go any deeper than this one episode, but it's important to know a little bit about it so you're not fighting each other when you're in the planning thing. Because ideally, you're kind of bad at design and they're kind of bad at storytelling, and you make up for each other's weaknesses, but you know enough about what each other's doing that you collaborate well, right? All right, so here we go. What are we talking about today? So much for the intro. I know it's been a long intro. So here are the grammar rules that you need to break in order to break into copywriting. Why old, beautiful writing? All right. So like I said, we're not trying to be designers. We're just trying to write with design in mind, right? So here are the grammar rules you need to break in order to break into copywriting. Why old, beautiful writing sucks, and how to make your writing better. how to keep your graphic designer from quitting the exact shape, order, font, spacing, formatting, emphasizing, coloring, and imagery you need to pick before you write a single word, and how all of this applies to landing pages and email, some of the most design-heavy areas of marketing. So you got to break the rules when you want to communicate, right? This is something that you'll constantly deal with as a marketer when you're working with designers. Designers want to make something that's aesthetically pleasing. And look back at some of those early newspapers, right? They're like, wait, these things have different, all the titles are different. What's going on here? Sometimes that's not in good practice, you know? Sometimes it looks very unprofessional. And at other times, it's like, if I make all these the exact same, you're gonna have no reason to read in that Z formation we talked about. They're just gonna read one and then go, I got it. If you have the same negative space between all of your headlines, they're gonna go, which one, why should I even look at these other ones? They all are clearly of equal importance. And it just takes that compelling reason to keep moving out. Now we don't do that as often. Now we can play with colors. Now designers are kind of getting the message, and we're having really, really wide color palettes instead of something with only 2 or 3. But that's because marketers probably have been pushing on designers to be able to give them more to work with, to draw the eye, the attention to different areas, and still keep some of that branding up. So some grammar rules you might want to break here. Start sentences with conjugations. Start sentences with conjunctions. I do it all the time. Just start a sentence with and or but. It's not very good practice, grammatically speaking, but it's way more effective. It's really kind of interesting and human to start it that way, so do that as often as you want. Start with the word because, end sentences and prepositions. That's honestly, if you're just a native American English speaker, you're just going to communicate that way. You end in prepositions all the time. That's what I'm going to do, right? It's like, all right. And the goal of language is to communicate at the end of the day. And all of these rules, while they're technically important from like a societal perspective, where you're like, you know, people will judge me because of this, and maybe learning it the right way gives you some sense of internal order. But when you're writing to sell, your goal is to sell, right? When you're writing to tell a story, your goal is to tell a story. So don't worry too much about proper grammar. Focus on writing in a way that helps you communicate most effectively. All right. This is a quote by Bo Burnham. You'll get monthly ellipses. It's talking about hitting your period, but lots of periods, heavy periods, right? We got period. Funny. But in copywriting, this is one of those things that you use all the time, that proper grammar would not like. Use ellipses all the time. I was thinking the other day, ... Use them all the time. It's bad grammar, but it's effective for copywriting. Capitalize to emphasize. This would be super, super rude to capitalize on YouTube or on a Facebook post or on Instagram or on TikTok or whatever. People are like, ugh, it's like shouting. You're like, stop shouting. The rest of us are talking at a polite indoor thing. There's a time and a place, Ash. Don't yell, don't ride your bike inside. But sometimes it's appropriate to shout. Sometimes you'll see this on landing pages, and it actually doesn't feel rude at all, where you have, you know, one really big, like your header, and that one's actually all, the first letter is capitalized of each word, but then the rest of it's lowercase. Well, that's your H1. For your H3 that you put above it, so you might say, like, if it were a backpack, you know, I'd say, I put the benefit in my H1, so I'd say, like, best straps ever, or most comfortable straps ever. Best load lifters in the industry. No, I'd say a comfortable carry. That's what I'd say for my H1. And then above it, I'd write, you know, the best load lifters in the industry. And so it's a smaller one, but I'm gonna do it in all caps and a different color. So let's say I had black. Sorry, I can imagine it. So the best load lifters in the industry. A comfortable carry. All right, so if I just had them like that, you're gonna pay attention to this top one, of course. But let's say I wish I had semi-bold here, but I don't have that kind of control. I don't think. All right. We'll make both of these bold. We're gonna make this one 24 and make sure this one's 12. Generally, there's kind of a mathematical relationship between different things. Sometimes you just have to kind of feel it out. But typically, you know, multiples of 4 and everything are really good. They typically do the math for you here on almost everything. It's like, hey, these things, they scale really well and look nice next to each other. So you don't have to worry too much. But yeah, there it was obviously just a half, 24 to 12. So there you go. And let's say I made that, say my color was green because I'm kind of an outdoorsy brand. All right, so that might be how I would do that. And you see, that actually doesn't look that rude. And there's going to be lorem ipsum senatus populusque Romanus. Why is it's taking so long? Aurora borealis. Veni. Vidi. Vici. Acta non verba. All right. So the reason why I did all that, this is what's called lorem ipsum. Now most people use a generator. Most people use a generator. I'll make that 16. Make that 36. There we go. Most people use a generator to make lorem ipsum. I've done this my whole career, is I just actually type in the few Latin phrases that I know. But this is to give you kind of an example of what this might look like, right? So we've got our H1 here, our H3 up here, and our paragraph down here. So I can use this all caps up here, and it doesn't actually feel rude at all. It's actually smaller than this. If this was all caps, we might feel a certain type of way about it. But that's not even true, right? That's what Wicked Protein was doing. Do you feel like they're being rude? No, it's just their brand guidelines. I don't know. It feels normal there. So there's a time and a place where you kind of accept it, and you'll just, honestly, I wish I could tell you something better, but you'll get a feel for it, for what feels normal, what feels acceptable as you're going through things. So don't be afraid to capitalize sometimes, and sometimes when it's appropriate, don't be afraid to shout, digitally speaking. You use the capitalization because it feels good. All right. So let me give you a sense of what I mean here. We're getting a little specific. And we're starting from a point where, like, look at all this design done well. But that's not always the way it's going to be done. Sometimes you're just going to have a block of text and it's going to feel like a textbook. You're going to look at it and go, I don't want to read all that. There's a lot going on there. So this is Federalist 51 from the Federalist Papers, a really great quote on humanity and on government. And it goes something like this. It may be a reflection on human nature that such devices should be necessary to control the abuses of government, but what is a government itself but the greatest of reflections on human nature? If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. In framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this. You must first enable the government to control the governed, and in the next place, oblige it to control itself. Great quote, but it's a little long, and this happens a lot with kind of long form academic writing. So I thought it was a good place to start because there's absolutely no formatting being done here. This is what I'm talking about, where your copywriting can be good. Yes, this is a little bit old-fashioned, but it was really good at the time. Your copywriting can be good, but without any formatting, it sucks and no one wants to read it. So you can use colons, you can use dashes, you can use ellipses, right? Like you're going to talk. Any sentence that requires a comma nowadays is probably too long. Make it shorter. Blogs you're allowed to or whatever, but if you're doing traditional copywriting, be wary of the comma. It's probably not something you want to use all the time. They're overused, they're used improperly, you create run-on sentences, you annoy people. And don't use subclauses for the same reason, where you're saying, and don't use subclauses for the same reason. All right. So here's an initial thing. Let's take out all those commas. Let's break our sentences into different paragraphs. Suddenly, this is already way more inviting to look at because there's more negative space. It's less intimidating. I think a lot of this comes from printing, right? You have a limited amount of paper. You don't want to have all that negative space. But in the digital world, we don't have the same limitations. So if you're in the digital world, you're making landing pages, you're making emails, it's all good. Let's use some negative space, huh? Make people scroll a little bit. It's fine. So even separating out the sentences is helpful, but our sentences are still kind of too long. We've got all those commas in there. And that's because like you have these long lines too. The lines are physically longer to go through, and that's exhausting to go from one to the other. It's probably only a small decrease in effectiveness, but when you're dealing with conversions, when you're dealing with a percent down to a percent down to a percent of people who click through, people who read, people who buy, that those little bits really seem to add up. So you need to make sure that you're maximizing along the whole way, and any extra effort to increase your conversion rate is often worth it. So here's a modernized thing, right? Same thing, same general message, but written in a way that's a little bit more modern. You see, from a formatting perspective, we have much shorter sentences. We are beginning sentences with prepositions. We're using bolds sometimes, or we're using all caps sometimes. You see what I have is kind of a stagger over here, where if I made all of my text all straight up and down, it would also be kind of unpleasant to look at. So I've talked about this several times, but it's good to have some sort of a dun, 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 dun. And then if I were to put a button down here, it's always nice for the general shape to slant down towards the button. It almost points at your button. So there are some general layout advices for you, but here we go. Here's the modern writing version of Federalist 51. We need rules because we're human. And the government is actually the perfect example of our human nature. If men were angels, we wouldn't need a government. If angels governed men, the government could do whatever it wanted. And that's why making government is so hard. First, you have to make a government that controls its people. Then you have to make a government that controls itself. Same message. It's a little bit more modern. We're using smaller words. Government's the longest, but it's the government, man. I'm allowed to say government. It's fine. So you can see we're using simpler words, shorter sentences. We're using more verbs. That's a big thing. We talked about that when we're making it simple. We are human. When you have a sentence that's 4 or 5 words long, one of those has to be a verb, which means it just feels better. By shortening your sentences, you're automatically putting more verbs into what you're doing. All right. It still keeps some of the schemes and tropes from the other one though, which is great. So you see, there's our difference there. And originally there wasn't even a paragraph break in Federalist 51. It was just one long section. And suddenly we have this thing. It's a little bit shorter. It's more inviting to read on the right side. All right, so really you're just allowed to format. So now we're just going to format at will for the theming of it. We were using this old written thing. So let's get rid of the old fashioned serif font and we'll go modern. All right, now we see we've got the sans serif here. It's a little bit easier. It's modern. Oh man, this is looking a lot more like something that you'd see on an Instagram post or an email or whatever. But you see everything's looking the same. So now we're going to add in some bolding. And now we can really, some things are bolded and italicized, some things are just bolded and underlined. So the bolding and underline is the thing that I really want to hit home. That's the reason why people quote Federalist 51 is the government should control itself, right? That's often how it's quoted. But then there are other things that we need to emphasize. So we pick out a couple of key phrases for those scanners. You know, we're going to have the skeptics who read through the whole thing. Some people are going to go, wait, what is this email? Bing, we're human. We don't need a government. It could do whatever it wanted, but it should control itself. I got the general gist of it. I'm good to go. And you see how I picked the right things there, that was what it said. And so I walked through, your brain kind of fit. If you bold the right things and you scan through, you're like, I get what it's saying. What's the next thing? That's how you should be. That's how you should be using those things. All right. It's important to make it look short. So just a quick, so just kind of a cheat code is to make your copy look short. It doesn't have to be short, but making it look short so it's not like a big wall of text, that's easy. So don't do more than 5 lines per paragraph. And even that's really, really pushing it. And if you have a really long, I like 3, maybe 2. And even if you do that, it's great to have like short, long, short, long. So don't cram several longs right next to each other. That's not going to be great. If you're in blogs, typically a 3-line paragraph is perfect. And you can do one right after the other. But that's for blogs. Ignore that. Okay. So this is Nicholas Cole. He runs Ship 30 for 30, which is a copywriting school. It's more of like a long form copywriting. This is his book, The Art and Business of Online Writing. It's a great book. It goes deep and it focuses on this like long form sort of informational writing. And they aren't doing a lot of this, where we have a lot of short sentences. They have a lot of information they're putting in. Their copywriting feels a lot more like blogs. It's a different style. It's a different feel. And they use a bunch of different structures that help you write longer form content that doesn't feel overwhelming and that actually aids in storytelling. So they have an insane amount of schemes that they use. They probably have 20 different schemes. It really kind of flies away. I think it gets a little bit too complicated, but it's really advanced. So if you want to check out this book, you've been writing for a while, go for it. For most people, it's way too much. This is just like the final 1% of your studying. So if you're not there yet, here's what you should take away from this. They have what's called the 1-3-1. I think that's the biggest deal. You start with a compelling opener to hook your reader. Then you have the second sentence to clarify what you introduced. The third sentence reinforces your point, and the fourth sentence guides your reader towards the conclusion. And then finally, you wrap it up. You notice this is, oh my gosh, a 3-act structure. And it's probably a lot like what you learned in school for writing a paper, right? You've got your introduction, your body, and your summary. That's what we're talking about here. So if you have to have a little bit longer of writing, think short intro, the meat and potatoes, and your summary. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. That's the beginning, body, and summary. And that's the 1-3-1. There's also other structures that are the 1-5-1. You can just see that's a little bit more meat and potatoes. The 1-3-2-1, where you break out your 5 into 2 separate paragraphs. The 1-4-1-1, where you have basically 2 versions of the summary doing the same thing. You can stack a 1-3-1 on top of another 1-3-1. You could do a 1-3 and then do a subheader and then another 3-1. So like you have a heading in there, like a big title to break it up. You could do a 1-3-1 and then a bulleted list underneath, which is more formatting to help pull it out, and then add another subheader at the end. Like I said, it gets really out of control. The main thing you should walk away with, because I don't want to go super deep on this. Why does it say San Francisco? Get out of here. Get out of here. That was from the template that I used for this. Okay. So that's so much. This is why I don't necessarily recommend it for beginners. It's just not that useful. Just think short intro, meat and potatoes in the middle, small outro. If you really feel like it aids in your writing to have a lot of stuff in the middle, because again, from a scannability standpoint, I'm gonna see this headline, and then I'm gonna go. I can see this. I can and then go here, and I get everything, because the first and the third are those they're built for scanning, and in the middle, if I'm a skeptic, I'll read it. If I'm a scanner, I'm just gonna pop right on by, and that's totally fine as long as you make sure that you're doing hook and summary down here. You'll be good to go. So that's kind of similar to what we did here. See, we started with something nice and short. Then we have the meat and potatoes in the middle. If we wanted to compress that, we could. And then we basically have bullets down here. So this is, I call this like a 1-2-1-1 bullet is how this ends up working. So I could, if I wanted to restructure this, if I wanted to restructure it, I could do it that way, where it's a 1-1-2-1 bullets. I could make it a 1-3-1. There you go. Hey, look at that. It's a 1-3-1. Weird how that goes. So, all right, let's jump back in. We need rules because we're human, and the government is actually the perfect example of human nature. If men were angels, we wouldn't need a government, blah, 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 blah. All right, so I say bullets, but I mean any sort of ordered list. which includes numbers. Ta-da. See? I could also restructure it that way. Number 1, you have to do this, then... I'm sorry, did you just miss the O and the U that I typed? What are you doing? All right. There we go. It's now a 1-3-1 with bullets, weirdly enough. We need rules because we're human, and the government is actually the perfect example of human nature. If men were angels, we wouldn't need a government. If angels governed men, the government could do whatever it wanted, and that's why making a government is so hard. You have to make a government that controls the people. You have to make a government that controls itself. It's pretty good. I like that. It's relatively pleasant to look at. So, you know, sometimes there's, like if you're kind of in a print environment or something, that would be a good way to stack it. If you have something really long, like when I'll do this is when, like what I wrote before, I have a lot of really short sentences next to each other. So if it feels like I'm getting things that are all, you know, let's say I have 30 lines in an email or a landing page right after each other, and they're all about that long, and there's no long parts, that also feels intimidating in the same way. So I'll often go into something. Now this is only a couple lines long, so I don't think that was devastating, and there's still some variety in there. But if it was way longer, I think this would be super appropriate. It'd be super appropriate to go in and say, all right, let's stagger these a little bit so that we can have some more text down here and not confuse people. So that's a good little system there. But for most situations, like I said, when your reader isn't reading super long form stuff, but like I said, there's still something you can get from this, which is the stagger that I talked about. You see, there's a little bit of stagger here. There's a lot of stagger here, which is much easier to read. So let's read the one on the left and see how much more compelling this stuff is on the right because of some formatting we did just with the lengths of things and some parentheses. So let's go ahead and jump in, right? You wouldn't write the same every day. Would you eat the same food every day? It gets boring when you read things. You shouldn't write the same every time. Would you eat the same food every day? It gets boring to read when things are the same. The lines need to vary or they're hard to read. Why would you do this to your reader? Do you hate them? Do you want them to die? How are you supposed to read this? How are you supposed to scan this? All right, so there's a slight stagger, but you see, it's just like, it's kind of all the same. Whereas on the right, it's really staggered. We say yawn. We have those parentheses on top. It makes it really easy to be like, oh, this is different than the rest of it. And then there's some really intense staggers between the lines. Yawn. That's what people do when your lines are the same size. Think about it. Would you eat the same boring food every day? Of course not. Then why would you make your reader suffer through it? You keep people engaged when you vary things. You can even use multiple lines and create rhythm with your length. Make more money by varying your line length. So you see also, this kind of calls to like a call and response almost, where you can ask a question and then give like a really human sort of response afterwards. You're like, would you eat the same boring food every day? That's a rhetorical device. You can just say, then why would you make your reader suffer through it? But you can respond to the rhetorical question and say, of course not, like a person would. You know, it's fine. You can do that. And it not only is it more visually interesting, but it creates some personality in your writing, which is really cool. So anyways, from Nicholas's advice, I think it's one thing you can take away is the rhythm that we've talked about before, is that you can create something with a little bit of variety that people are interested in looking at. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Generally, if you can make the shape kind of vaguely, like think about like a trend line that you do if you, so think about like if you're in school, if you did trend lines on graphs, is you just had to get like, what's the general feeling of this graph that goes, it goes up kind of like that. Do the same thing with your writing. If you're pointing to a button and you can say like, oh, it kind of generally points down that way. Perfect. That's what you want. You want it to generally slope towards your button. And if it's centered, you want it to do like a reverse pyramid towards your button. Very good. And that's what I was going to talk about back here. Yeah. So you see Wicked Protein has that general like shoop. That's the feel, is it all kind of points towards the button. That's a good move. ClickFunnels. Hey, would you look at that? It kind of slopes down. I hate this mouse. It kind of slopes down. It slopes down towards that entry area. So that's a great thing that you can do there, right? But as you get better, as you're writing longer stuff, you might want to write those 3-act structures and put them into your writing, giving each section a body, a hook, and a conclusion, with the body being the longest part. If you want to do that, pick up the Art and Business of Writing online. you'll always have that like on your shelf that you can just go grab and be like, what do I want? How do I take what I just wrote and force it into a structure that makes a little bit more sense? Easy peasy. So we already talked about this before. So designing your typography. Let's start it all over. So I wrote this back when Joe Biden was still the president, and it's been a long time, man. I hope you're enjoying the course because I've been working on this a long time, putting it together. I wanted this to be so valuable for you, and I've got clients to think about. So I'm not saying I'm working 40 hours a week over a year to put this together, but I've been putting this together for like a year and a half. I hope you're really enjoying it. I hope you're getting a lot out of it. I kind of poured my heart and soul into this, so I hope it's going great. All that being said, I think you can see I'm just trying to do stuff that excites me. I hope it's exciting you too. So let's talk about direct mail. So after newspapers, there's direct mail. In fact, most marketers kind of got their start there. Now we say the same thing with email. There's just like a lot of it going out. You can get a lot of data back really fast. So it helps you learn and improve and test really fast. And it's where because you can test really fast, like the next time you send something out, you're going to be smarter than you were the day before. So it's awesome when you get to do that. Every copywriter should start someplace like that where they can test fast and test often. So let's look at the envelope. How do we make stuff stand out, right? First of all, most of the stuff you're getting in the mail is white. So the manila envelope is sweet. Just go for that. Number two, I don't want junk mail. Number two, I don't want junk mail. So prioritizing some sort of handwritten thing. Honestly, even when it's printed, handwritten, it's more convincing than other stuff. But if you've got the time, if this is a targeted campaign, like let's say you're only writing to 25 people who are your prospects, handwrite that sucker, man. Even if it means you have to hire someone who has good handwriting, I would do that. Third, and especially if you don't recognize the sender, like, I don't know, Joe Biden doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know that I live at 101 Mind Your Business Avenue. Marketing is sweet, which is a hilarious pun to me. Marketing is sweet in Texas. Joe Biden doesn't know me. He's not going to open this up. So I have to put something on there that's relevant to him that gets him to open this, right? And I happen to know because it was like all the coverage you got of Joe Biden when he first got in was like, oh, I like ice cream. Does he even like chocolate chip ice cream? I don't. Isn't it vanilla? Joe Biden favorite ice cream. Don't do this to me. Don't make me. Okay, it's chocolate chip. It's not chocolate chip. Yeah, it's just chocolate chip. That's what I'm getting mixed up. I was thinking it was chocolate chip. Okay. So his favorite ice cream is vanilla chocolate chip. Very basic. It is what it is. So we should pitch that to him, right? Free chocolate chip ice cream. That's the first thing that comes to mind as a thing we can do. And we've got a hand-drawn arrow. That's another good move. Arrows. We'll talk about some of the design things as a copywriter, not even like fonts and colors and all that, like things like that, like bolding and arrows. That's well in your domain. You should be dictating that and saying, hey, designer, I want one of these. So an arrow says, hey, you'll get this inside. Awesome. So the thing is, I think that's actually kind of weak. And before when I made this, I came back to this like months later. I was like, you know what? Joe Biden's rich. He doesn't need a free ice cream. He can buy his own ice cream. And plenty of people are already trying to find ways to give him money. So we need to make an irresistible offer. And we'll talk about that in the very last episode where we're kind of pumping up your general marketing chops and not just having you write copy, right? Which is ideally what happens. Copywriting is a great exercise to understand the psychology of your customers. And once you do that, you're just a good marketer in general. So anyways, jumping back in. So what if instead of free chocolate chip ice cream, I said, I'll pay you $10,000 to eat chocolate chip ice cream. Now that is a lie because I'm not going to pay him $10,000. It could be if it was a sponsorship, that'd be fine. And the other thing that we could be doing, how I could generally position this is it's a $10,000 discount. So let's say I'm selling a $30,000 service where we mail organic handmade chocolate chip ice cream right to his door. And it's like, you're never going to want for ice cream. You just pay us. Actually, instead of $30,000, it's just going to be $20,000. We're literally paying you $10,000 or you give him a rebate. That's technically even more for sure. Like, oh, I'm actually paying you. You'll pay me $30,000, but I'll give you $10,000 back. I don't I don't know why that happens, why it's like, oh, we do this. I mean, I do. Rebates, sorry. Marketing history here. Digital campaigns are really easy to get feedback on. And so you can see who clicked and who bought and everything. Once upon a time with direct mail, you'd have no idea what was working. So you put in rebates and say, or coupons and say like, hey, present this coupon. Or you say like, hey, send this in afterwards and we'll give you your money back. Well, that's to get data back on the campaign. So that's why you use rebates. But I find rebates a little weird now, but it is what it is. Anyways, you could do a rebate to really plausibly say $10,000 back. But my feeling is that a rich person really doesn't want to deal with a rebate thing. So I don't think that's a good move. But either way, we now have a killer offer of how we're going to get someone to open this up. And we've tailored it to our prospect to use it to get attention, right? Let's switch it up. Let's say Donald Trump's in office, and he is now, and we might offer him free McDonald's. He's sort of famously a germaphobe. And so he's like, I like McDonald's because it's standardized and they prepare it ahead of time. So they're not going to spit in my food or put something crazy in there. They're just going to grab a burger and hand it to me. So I know it's good to go. So that's McDonald's. So I say, I can't just say win free McDonald's because he's rich and he doesn't care. So we say free McDonald's for 1 year. Well, maybe that'll do it. Maybe we have to say there's a sponsorship or that we're going to sign him up for 3 years or whatever. But we're going to give him one for free so he can stay focused and safe for germs while he's in office. That would be stuff that we put inside. If we're going this specific and we're targeting just Trump, we really want to tailor the offer and the message inside. So that's how we do it from the outside. We're getting into it. We're playing. So we're talking about this earlier. I kind of showed you in Google Docs. We've got our H1, we've got our H4, our H3, our kind of paragraph headings. They're all a little bit different. They have different weights to them. We have our body paragraph stuff there. You can see my custom lorem ipsum down there. It's my quirk, man. That's what I do. But you can see how these all play together. And even in a row, they're going to use different impacts. You see the all caps heading 4. That's one of my favorites. I love doing that. That's such a slick move. And this is all in one color. So obviously you have even more to play with, except for the gray body paragraph, which I also think is a good move. I like to de-emphasize my body paragraph quite often because I sell a lot of stuff that really requires people to skim. So I want to encourage skimming. So anyways, for alignment, it's almost always best to do left align for copywriting paragraphs. Occasionally you'll center stuff, but left aligned is more classic. Sometimes the stagger of centering is just weird. It's just uncomfortable and it's not great. For something like the very top of your page, it's acceptable. You have your heading, your sub headline, and then your button, right? It really focuses the attention there. For the rest of the page, except maybe your very, very ending where you get to the bottom, you have a call to action, and you say sign up now button. You can also center that, but most of the time you want to do a left aligned. And for subtle spacing. And for subtitle spacing, it kind of depends what you're emphasizing. So the H3 here could just as easily go under the heading if it was more related to the heading than it was to this, if that makes sense. So like I think I have an example in here. Yeah, there we go. So I'll show you that in just a second. So like here's one where you see these ideas are more related. So we say on top, this is backpacks, and then down here we're going to talk about straps. Well, yeah, because I'm going to have straps, and then I'm going to have down here, I'm going to have admin pouches. And then below that, I'm going to have, your hip belt or whatever. So it makes more sense to have the H3 broken off. But if I said heading number 1, backpacks, and then heading number 3 was the best backpacks in the world, and then H5 were my breakouts of my points, I would organize them that way. Because the best backpacks in the world is more related to the backpack I'm selling. So in that case, I would want to group H3 and H1 together. All right. So the closer it is to the paragraph, the more related it is to the paragraph. The closer it is to the title, the more related it is to the title. Generally for spacing, you want to 2x the leading from the paragraph to make it make sense as a subheading. So you see this is there. It's like 1, 2, there we go. Now we're at the heading. It's like 1, 2. All right, now we're there. So that's generally how I laid that out. Here we just have 1 because like that's the spacing I'm using. We just have 1 there. That's like, okay, those things really need to go together. So that there's some simple math there. Again, as a designer, you're just going to kind of feel these things eventually. Or, you use something like Figma, which has built-in rows that you can really kind of be like, all right, I'm going to use X amount of rows between these things, and then I'll just standardize that across that. If you're working with a designer, again, we're not trying to teach design today. They'll just do it for you. But this is something you should be aware of and understand, like, okay, this is going to be how the spacing goes, and it's all good. So up top, you obviously have the main idea. You have the subheadline, the topic. You have the subtopics and the body with the full idea. We talked about this before, put the H3 or whatever it is closest to what it's related to. Visually, that helps you differentiate where things are coming. If you're interested in a full-blown typography session, I will put this in the description below. You have it up there in the upper right-hand corner. Great thing on just all the terms and everything that you're going to go through. If you're taking the design course on Free Universal College, there's a great course from Cal Arts on design. They have a whole section on typography. So you can go there. So there's some awesome stuff there, but you basically already know what you need for marketing. Same thing as your spacing over the lines. So if you want a full-blown lesson, you can go there. If not, here's all you need to know as a marketer. All right. So you've got the height, the type size, where you have the total height of everything that you're working with. You have the leading, which is the space between your baselines. So you see that's a baseline and that's a baseline. So that's your spacing between different things. You don't even know kerning, but that's the space between your text. That really only becomes relevant for logos. So if you're doing logo design, like, you see how this has a giant kerning between it? And just because, like, technically that bit down there and that bit down there are just that far apart, but because they're really far away from each other, you don't see that they're close. So you would actually have to adjust your kerning between different letters to make it feel correct and close together. And that's real technical, man. You do not need to know that for marketing. Here's what you need to know. You need to know the height and your spacing between paragraphs, your leading, and your line length. The actual length should be long enough to represent an idea, but short enough to easily find the next line of text. Like I said before, if you have really, really long text, typically, like, ideal is around 66 characters long. You can swing it 40 to 80. If you have 120 characters long and you have to find the next sentence, it's an actual physical journey to get back to where you need to read your next line. Don't make them do that. People will hate that. This is just a quick thing on fonts. I'm going to fly through this. This is open versus closed aperture. You're almost never going to play with some of these, like, extreme open apertures, but what we're talking about is just if the gaps are open like that, you see that's an angle, and here it's more closed. It's like more right angle-y. Again, you're going to have font pairings done for you, so you don't need to do this. Just look up good font pairings. You'll find something you like, but I recommend, typically, unless you have like a really, really quirky out there brand, not going for fonts that are like, this is fine for open aperture. Some things are getting really extreme. Don't do the super weird ones. All right. So there's some great font pairings over at creativeblog.com/typography/20 perfect font pairings. That's awesome. Go over there. That's a great place to start if you're picking out your own. Generally, your font pairings, a good rule of thumb is that you want them to be different from each other. You don't want to, a lot of times you'll have a serif and a non-serif. We talked about that. Hold up, let me get you there. We talked about that with First News here. They've got their serif on top, up here, bing, 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 and then everything else is a sans serif. That's something. But that's not what I'm doing in my whole presentation, right? You can see I've got, actually the name of my fonts. Don't do this to me. I've got Poppins up top, and I've got Laura. It should be Laura. Maybe I didn't have it on that one. Laura. Lotto, sorry. Oh, that's because I chose those. Man, can I get to a normal page real quick? Would you just mind if... There we go. We'll go to the homework really fast. So that should be Poppins and then Lotto. So that's my font pairing. I looked it up, man. You don't need to do your own font pairings. People have done that work for you. So anyways, you should contrast your font pairings. They should be a little bit different, but they shouldn't be too different. So you see on the right, we've got that like sort of military stencil style. And then it's just paired up with like a very normal serif font. That's probably too different, right? General things I mentioned earlier, 16-point minimum font size for digital, except for your image descriptions. You can contrast by doing serif and sans, or you can do contrast by having a serif and a non-sans serif. You can contrast by having bold and regular weight. Typically what you're looking for when I'm saying things should be similar is they should be kind of similar heights. So you see, like, you know, I know these are different sizes in terms of like this is a larger text, but what I mean is like relative to things, similar X heights. So I can go back. You're getting too technical, David. So anyways, yeah, just use Google Fonts. People do the work for you. But when you're actually picking out what font thing you want to do, I think it's important to actually know this part, that different fonts have different feels. There's a lot of different like emotional implications with fonts. So some are warm, some are cold. The more rational something is versus the more human something is, that's, you know, serif can be kind of stuck up in some ways because it's old fashioned, but in other ways, some of the stuff without serifs is just like cold and robotic and inhuman. So keep that in mind when you're picking something. Sometimes it's traditional, sometimes it's more innovative, sometimes it's serious, sometimes it's fun. You know, that's what I was saying earlier with that C that had the really open aperture is like, actually, that's kind of fun and quirky. So if that's your vibe, go for it. But if it's not your vibe, don't go for it. You have feminine and masculine, you have formal and casual, you have classic versus trendy, you have rational versus human. I think that almost perfectly lines up with warm and cold. You have progressive versus conservative, you have old versus young. Just think about who your brand is and find stuff that feels appropriate to them. And if you're having troubles picking, just look up fonts that are adjective. What do you want? You can ask ChatGPT this. What are fonts that are this? And then say, great, my brand is this. Help me find that. And then you say, what's a good font pairing for this? ChatGPT would be perfect for that. Go ahead, use it that way. Actually, I've never done that before. That's actually a great idea. So here's just the brief stuff. The serif, we've talked about the sans serif. We've done that over and over. We have rationalist fonts, which don't mimic the human hand. They're very like mathematically precise. You have slab serif, which got really popular. People kind of rarely use it. It's kind of like almost difficult to read, especially when it's small. It's kind of industrial, but it's ornamental. So it has what are called ball terminals. And so, you know, things are kind of rounded off in places. You have modern serifs, which are not my favorite. Bauhaus design is, you know, it led off an entire design movement and it impacts us a lot now, but it's so postmodern, it's so lame. But anyways, it's just kind of cold, rebels against tradition, but it's like function over form. It's less decorative. It's less human. It kind of sucks. You have neo-grotesque, which is like very Helvetica, which is like very modern, very corporate. And some people are like, oh, it's simple and neutral. And some people are like, it's mind-numbing and boring. Why did you do this to us? And then finally you have humanist, which is kind of one of my favorite things, which is you see some of the old serifs over here are a little bit more pretentious. They're old fashioned in a way. And these sans serifs are like, hey, like the brief story. I have to read books upside down now so that I can read to my kid at night. And I didn't care about this before. And I still don't care that much because why do you really need to read a book upside down? But I have to read it down so he can look at the pictures. And serifs are brutal to read upside down. They're really, really hard. So the idea of sans serifs is they're easier to read. They're easier to read at any size, unless you do something like the slab where you just bold to the point where you can't actually see like the negative space inside the words. So that gets really rough at small sizes. Anyways, the humanist font is meant to take the good things about the sans serif, which is that it's easy to read, but the human aspect of serifs, where you've got some of those, oddities built in. So humanist fonts are some of my personal favorites aesthetically, but use what goes with your brand. Ask ChatGPT, it'll help you out. I told you about a little bit earlier that it's generally good to have some sort of mathematical relationship for stuff. I like doing multiples of 4. That's pretty easy. Multiples of 16, even better. It makes the math super easy. Your designer can help with this, but it's also pretty much done for you on most design or Word format things. So just make sure that your H1s and H2s and H3s are different sizes, and then you're pretty much good. Then just go about your life. It's all good. All right. So here are the design things that you actually super care about as a copywriter. So as a copywriter, are you always going to play with color? No. Are you always going to play out with the different sections? No. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But there's probably a dozen different things that you need to know that are at your power, that are well within the copywriting world. One is bold facing. You know what that is. You know what underscoring is, what underlining is. You can add borders to things. I love using borders. I'm going to put a box around something and I'm like, perfect. That gets a little bit more in the design thing, but it's great when you're like, I want this to stand out more than anything else. This is a call out. I don't just want a whole new section. I want this to almost feel like physically it's on top of everything else. I'm putting a border on that sucker. All caps, that's always an option. And you see how like bold facing and all caps and underscore and italics and highlighting all more or less do the same thing. It's just like you need multiple ways to emphasize something. So make sure that you know all of those are within your command and make sure you use them. The indent, more old-fashioned as well. The indent was used in a lot of print media because this giant space between paragraphs is extremely wasteful. Now that we're digital, we do whatever we want. Hit enter 3 times, it's all good. But the indent was really great to make it easy in print to be able to just like pop it over. We use that a lot less now, but you're welcome to use it. You never know. Lists, talked about that earlier. It can be bullets, it can be numbers. It's just technically an ordered list. It's so easy to put things in there, and instead of writing 3 sentences there in the middle, the bullets are just like, it's so pleasant to look at. And it's so easy to scan through. So I highly recommend that. Stroke, obviously it's kind of like color, but the exact opposite, where you put yellow around the outside of the text instead of filling the text with yellow. But both are options there. You can play with color or stroke color. And finally, drop caps. Another classic design technique. I would probably recommend this for something like newspapers or print media, like direct mail. It's very old school. And it's out of style. And I've never used that because of that. But old copywriters absolutely swear by the drop caps. I'm sure you've seen this in books. And it's one of those like, if it's so effective, you might do it, but it is a branding thing that you're going to make yourself look super out of touch by doing it. So there's probably a trade-off. Feel free to try it, man. I'm curious about it, but it is what it is. Powerful technique you should know is at your disposal, but you may or may not want to use it, which is why I put it all by its lonesome over here. All right. Graphics, you can use cartoons, comics, memes, GIFs to lighten up your copy. Use them sparingly. I mean, if you use them all the time, it's not great. But for regular photos and illustrations, you can really show benefits, before and afters. You can make a joke with a meme. You can do, close-ups, whatever it might be. Graphics are super powerful. Again, with the borders, I use that to show different colors. You can color your text. You can use colors on your box. You can use colors on your text and on your buttons and everything. And you can make them have serious contrast to each other. In fact, generally for high conversions, it's highly recommended that you use a color like orange or aggressive purple there that's like, it almost doesn't go with everything else. It actually looks kind of bad from a branding perspective. But man, does it get attention. But that's a direct trade-off that you have to talk with your designer about, is like, or your brand team. How much do I want to sacrifice brand for the here and now, right? Because it looks a little obnoxious. It's a little bit like shouting. So use it sparingly. Columns. like I'm doing here. I have 4 things I want to emphasize, so I put them in columns instead of making them go down long ways. Very easy. And then hand drawn, you know, you've got arrows, you've got stars, you can circle and underline with hand drawn. Very popular. ClickFunnels and Dan Kennedy use this to death. It's super cool. I use it a lot throughout this presentation. Highly recommend that, but it could be off brand for your brand, so check with your brand, but it's a very powerful tactic. Where you can kind of get all this written down, see it used, see it put into place, and kind of see the design side from a copywriting angle longer than we're going into it today, is the single best book on landing pages, and the only book, like if you're getting one book from this course, it should be this one, The Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy. It's copywriting, it's design, it's layout, it's emphasis, it's different writing techniques. It's great. You should pick it up. It's awesome. If you want to dive a little bit more into design, there's a great book by Robin Williams, not that Robin Williams, a different Robin Williams, and it's called The Non-Designer's Design Book. It's a great way for you to get this in a little bit more detail than I'm giving you today. It's a great crash course so you can get in. It'll help you work better with designers on your team. So you can kind of pick up some basic design skills and make it easier to be a one-stop shop like the stuff that I do, or you can work better with the designers on your team. So I talked a little bit about some landing page stuff, but let's talk about designing landing pages, because that's where you're going to have the most stuff that you do. Emails, you know, it's kind of narrow. You don't have as many columns you're going to play with, for example. You're probably not going to do as many star this, make an H1, H2, H3, H4, H5. You know, you're not going to have that. So probably an easier place to start is designing emails, but the hardest spot to do design is going to be on your landing page, right? So here's some conversion tactics. The action is above the fold. So put your biggest benefit on top. And by above the fold, I mean like before you scroll. We talked about that with newspapers. It's like literally the fold, like you unfold the newspaper. The stuff below doesn't get seen originally. It's the same thing when you arrive on a landing page now. If you have to scroll to get to something, you're like, oh man, I might have already clicked back before I saw that. So put the biggest benefit and your most important call to action above the fold. That's huge. Use big buttons, bold colors, and clear CTA. People, from a branding perspective, often think that like small buttons are polite and dainty and well branded and everything. I'd increase the size of the buttons, man. There's a size of the button that's way too big and way too obnoxious. You'll have to find the middle ground, but use bigger buttons. Point to a button and important things. Use arrows, use images. Like someone might literally be like, and pointing the text next to them, that's equivalently an arrow. So pointing images is also good. Emphasize important things with the bold, the underlines, the italics, the different colors. Use social proof. Give people testimonials on screen. Have pictures of faces on there because people trust people. That's huge. Use color choice. Use contrasting colors. Again, you can find palettes that do this for you. But when you're picking out a palette, if you are picking out a palette, use color contrasting colors to get stuff. Also, white and black are generally like ease for white. It's easy and simple, and black is like quality and luxury. So keep that in mind as you're designing for brands, because they're going to give off totally different feels. I'd say white and black, like dark and light, are some of the biggest things you can do to just like change something really easily and drastically make a big difference on your conversion rate. So make it scannable, no long paragraphs, use bullets, show benefits and headlines so that people can scan through and read it quickly. Use good imagery that shows benefits, features. It just isn't filling space. It points to the next steps. You know, you're doing this, it's pointing towards your call to action. It's showing people happy or having lost weight or whatever it might be. Tell a story. Disjointed pages aren't read or understood, so you want to make it flow. You know, you want to, oh, I want them to go that way. That's kind of the story I'm telling. You know, when I chose what to bold and something's like, okay, ding, 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 ding. Actually, that was the flow of the story. There we go. Make sure that you focus on one thing. You're not trying to communicate multiple ideas. That's that rule of one. But you're going to want to make sure that each section kind of feels like if you read all of it, it flows together. And if you just scan through it, does it still feel like a cohesive story? It should. And finally, mobile first design. This is so hard. This is so hard because if you're doing something professionally, you're probably using a laptop. But the thing is, the people who are buying from you aren't. They're on their phones. Like 90% of them, for the most part, of your traffic is going to come in from mobile. So focus there. Make sure that I love the widescreen. I hate the vertical screen, but it is what it is. You have to design for mobile first because that's where people are coming from, right? So, above all, you should test often. Even the best marketers who made thousands of things before are still just making educated guesses, and they're very educated guesses, but they're still guesses, you know, you'll test 20 things to make one that makes a 50% improvement, but that's huge, you know? Yeah, just make sure that you're testing often and putting these in place, and you'll do great. Whew, how many more do we have? We're getting there. 10:06. Okay. So how this works in real life. You need to design your landing pages. The goal is to get people to buy. Start with your headline, follow up with a sub-headline. When asking for something informative, less is more. Keep your form simple. Yeah, there's a good one. When you're asking for information, this is kind of a big deal. Make sure that you're not making your forms or your paragraphs too long, right? When you're asking for information, be like, I need your name and email, and that's it. Maybe just your email. Like, the less stuff I'm asking for you, the less it kind of triggers you, makes you feel uncomfortable. So it's good to lay it out that way. If you're asking for personal details, you can do what's called objection busting. You might say, all right, disclaimer, we'll never share your information. It's a small touch, but it can boost conversions because you're handling that objection right there. Your font pairing should match your company's tone. When it comes to font pairings, I feel like I already did all this, man. Yeah. So Full-Time Filmmaker did this really, really well on their page. And I obviously screenshotted this on Cyber Monday, which is not going to be what's up there now, but I think they do a great job of kind of combining a direct response feeling page with everything else, right? All right, so Full-Time Filmmaker does a really good job of this. You come in, you've got Full-Time Filmmaker, learn how to make videos fast. That's the main benefit. Man, their font was better for Cyber Monday. Oh boy, that's sweet. That's sweet. See, they have the stroke up here and they have the color with the subtle glow around Monday. They should have kept that. But here it is. Learn how to make videos fast. What would I have done? I would have said, make videos fast. I would have done that same thing, make videos, and then fast, that tilt, I'd go as tilty as I could. Kind of, the glow is cool. It feels, you know, techy and everything, but any sort of like movement, like whooshiness I could add to it with lines or anything, I would have done that. Make videos fast. That would have been sweet. Okay, pick your access plan. So we've got all the same colors here, more or less. We threw in a yellow. There's really not a lot of yellow on the page, but we're like, okay, that's a good way to stand out against all of this white and red. Okay, we got the yellow. We've got black, red, and white here. Okay, so we're good. We've got some different options. We're emphasizing one's most popular. See, this one has the asterisk and this one has the parentheses. So we're really trying to emphasize this lifetime membership. It would say, you know, we've got this big like H3, and then if it was all black, that's too much going on there, but we're able to add in red pretty well. This is clearly what we wanted to emphasize, so we changed the color. We're going through, we've got a bunch of images that are moving. I actually don't know if these are, yeah, they're technically videos. But they're showing excitement and movement and all the things that you want to be able to do, adventure and beauty. That's what you're kind of wanting to get from this. So 3 great things. 2 tutorials, you'll be able to make videos like these. Oh, that's a nice benefit, get lifetime access. So again, we're gonna show faces. We're gonna say, thinking about the 12 gauge landing page, what are we doing here? We're now doing the credibility and backstory. Here's me, I'm Landon, here's what I do, here's my face. We're using whites and reds. We're using some emojis. We're using pictures to show what I was making. That's a good thing. And then we're doing some trust here. Here are brands that I've worked with. That's a good use of images. More images, more hand-drawn stuff. We're underlining, we're making it shine to focus on things really well kind of designed and laid out. Manual mode, see how much better that title is than this one? Oh, that's, even the font, man. Even your font is messed up. That, I do not care for that. But this like all caps one looked great. You should go back to the all caps one, guys. All right, but good time for a video. Then we're going in, we're showing all the breakdown of what we're teaching. This is the meat and potatoes part. This part, realistically, you're scanning over it. You're finding things that look interesting to you. You're being overwhelmed by value here. You say, and much more, $5,000 value. So the $5,000 value is what I'm supposed to focus on here, but I'm getting much more And then I have my 4 columns, and I get some more different things, some more things down here. And so, you know, I want to say big discounts, free. I'm trying to emphasize those things. That's cool. The all caps helps make certain things stand out. Again, like we've got the paragraph, but we're at 700 plus, 100 plus, exclusive perks. So we're even emphasizing those things down there. That's good. Clearly, we didn't really want to emphasize anything down here. That's just for the skeptic to read through and be like, what free downloads am I getting? But big discounts, we want to say save $360 a year with Adobe. That's cool. You'll also be joining an active community, which is almost impossible to read. It was hard on black. It's almost impossible on gray. That's a bad move. But anyways, it's all good. I would add more spacing there, but this is objection handling. So they're handling, at this point, we're 3/4 of the way down the page. And we're saying, if you haven't bought at this point, you're probably objecting to price. So that's where their head's at. And they're like, all right, so in this section, I've gotten far enough down that I'm going to say, here, you can pay in installments. Okay, so full price, but over time, that's great. And then we're doing our offer stack. Love that move where you have numbers that you want to get to. So you make them actually physically scroll up. That's very cool. But we use these images to, again, for the scanner, I see 207 million, 76,447. I don't know what I'm looking at, but I'd have to read down here to get it. But if you show some sort of a picture, okay, just ignore that. 147 million video views. I would have thought 147 million happy people. Students, I would have got that. 277 million, probably subscribers or views. I know that's customer satisfaction because that's a star, that's a Trustpilot star. But anyways, 30-day money back guarantee. This image is doing some hard work there because you could just scan over this and be like, oh, there's a guarantee, I'm good, right? Psst, if you're on the fence, so we're objection handling now. Good use of the emoji there, of that pissed. That's the onomatopoeia. We talk about opening emails with that, but this is kind of a final move that they're making here. And they're like, they could just say, if you're on the fence, read this. This interrupts you. That's great. Hey, it's landing again. We've got some great screenshots for proof, some steps of what you're going to get. Close the deal, last chance, and some FAQs. And you often use the FAQ section for more objection handling. So that's pretty cool. Like I said, I think they got a lot in there. They have a lot of different levels of details. From the Cyber Monday one, I love this all caps. I love that they use the stroke. I love that they use the glow in the color. And I love how they did this 60% off. You could either put it in a box there, or you could put these lines there like they did. That's such a sweet move. They should have done that more. Okay. I'm gonna pause. All right, so let's talk about columns. Most landing page builders already have basic columns built in. So you're gonna need to know how to. So here's what you need to know to make them work effectively. First off, don't go overboard. More than 6 columns is probably killing you. And even that should be used sparingly. Most of the time, 2 to 4 are ideal. Most of the time, you'll want to stick to 1 to 4 columns for a focused, clean look. And spacing is crucial. If they're right up on each other, it's no good. You want to make sure that they're easily readable. And that's, you want to have space between the different texts. But also, if you have a container in each column, like I showed you the other day, you want to make sure that the containers are spaced apart from each other. Wide margins are key for readability. Do not do the tiny little columns, just, like the text right up on the side of the rectangle that it's in. Don't do that. That's not good. For single text column, aim for 66 characters per line. That's how long should it be? That's the sweet spot. You can go a little bit wider than that. As a rule of thumb, for a single column, 1200 pixels wide is ideal. Otherwise, again, that keeps you from having to go like way back like that. So 1200 pixels, and then everything else would kind of sort itself out. If you have an area that's centered and it's single column up here, you might go even narrower for certain areas. So this is probably more like 900 pixels wide. You can imagine that if it went all the way over to the sides for the heading there, it actually might be kind of overwhelming. So it's nice when you center things to create lots of extra space on the sides, and then your video and your bullets can go a little bit wider, right? So let's talk about building trust, because even the best design won't convert if people don't believe you. So this is where social proof comes in. So this is where social proof comes in. You need to show people certifications, case studies, logos that you've helped them with. Social proof is an add-on. It's one of the most powerful tools you have for increasing your conversions. And finally, don't forget about the FAQ section. You can use that for objection handling at the end. And if it's a page that you're actually indexing from a website or a blog or whatever, your FAQ section is a great place to cram in some more SEO goodness. So let's talk about columns, because ClickFunnels does this well. Warning, it's changed a lot. They've totally rebranded since I took this screenshot. But here we go. All right, so what do? They have this really cool thing where they change their benefit. Love that. You're one funnel away. That's one of their things, is like you're one funnel away from success. But then they're going to go through all the things you might want to do. You want to impact millions, you want to change the world. Is the next one llamas? All right, from the 2 Comma Club. So that's if you make $1 million with them, right? Give me llamas, baby. Financial freedom. Ooh, that's a nice benefit. From breaking free. All right, very cool. So I really like that. I really want to get to the llama. Traveling the world. Yeah, that's sweet. So if you sit here and just kind of take it in, you're going to get all the different benefits. And I love that. Come on, man. Give me the llamas. Avocado toast. Okay, so we're getting a little funny now. If you stick around long enough, they show some personality. Getting that llama. Delete, delete, delete. Getting 2 llamas. Yeah, I love that. I love that about their site. It's hilarious. So, all right. So you still see we generally have that reverse pyramid vibe here going above the fold. And then if you're not ready to get started, you can learn more. What does learn more do? It just scrolls you down the page. Pretty slick. So I told you they got rid of videos because people aren't unmuting videos anymore, so you can't talk very much. So they've gone for the motion graphic style video where we're just showing stuff. That's if you want to read some short details over here, you can, but then you kind of get what's happening through the rest of this based on the little video that we're having here. You want to see your funnel, your store, they'll do the same thing, your CRM. You know, honestly, it just kind of looks easy. I think that's what they're going for. It's like, ooh, it's happening this way. Ooh, it's so convenient to use. And it's like, well, yeah, but it doesn't necessarily actually function that way, but they're trying to give off a feeling, right? It doesn't just compile email 2, email 1, email 2, email 3. You actually have to set those up and connect them and everything, but they're trying to give off a feeling, which is good. Online courses, yeah. All right, so then we have some social proof. People who've talked about them there, they don't even say what it is. They're just like, here's some stuff. And then you get to see the occasional highlight of, something they want to show off, that they have 100K users. They have 1 million funnels that have been created. They have some great reviews from people. They have pictures from them. They use the colors to kind of help call out those big stats so that they really stand out. I think that's a pretty slick move. All right, so here's that kind of like color hand-drawn-y functionality where this is more or less like a highlight or a box or something like that. You say funnels for creators, and you're like, all right, so this is appealing to creators. It's appealing to my identity. That's what they really want to emphasize there. Make yourself a comment. I can read through it, but I'm trying to read through it as if I were a scanner. The funnel mindset. All right, so I'm going to attract, sell, upsell, ascend, repeat. Easy. Get 2 weeks for free. That's a small button, y'all. I think their button should be about that big. I don't know why their button's so small. I think that's a bad move. Don't know why they did that. Build a funnel-based business. So we've got a couple of testimonials here from different people. One lady with pink hair, one person who's kind of got an influencer-y background, and one person who's diving, which is really cool. I think that the diving one is the one that sticks out the most. Those are some nice paused screens. And she looks almost like anxious or something. Like she's really got like, wow, I snapped. It was awesome. But then they even pull out one good quote from each person. So this works as a testimonial if you don't use it as like a video testimonial. Try our apps. It's got this nice thing where what you're on kind of gets emphasized. So that it can do these things. That's nice. But this is a benefit sections, and benefit sections should be a little bit understated because people don't care about the benefits unless that they are lower in the funnel. For the skeptic, for the person who's lower in the funnel, who's really trying to figure out what it does, this is important. But for the most part, you're just going to go, look, they have lots of apps. And you go, ready to get started? Yeah. Okay. So they did some good stuff for actually organizing similar to that. But I like their old version more. But again, people aren't watching videos. I get it. You can use that thing. So some other good examples, your first funnel challenge. Okay. So with these examples, I'm going to have different things that I'm showing you. So these are good landing pages with good flow right now. So ClickFunnels has a good flow. It doesn't necessarily have great design the way that I thought Full-Time Filmmaker did. The previous one for Cyber Monday, because I've got some criticisms for their new stuff, but ClickFunnels, it's well enough designed. It is what it is. They lean really heavily on their video and stuff. But when I say a good flow, I mean, it has a good story that you're going through, right? So these places, like I find this extremely busy. There's not a lot of spacing between stuff. A lot of competing for space. I think it's hard to look at in many ways. This is by ClickFunnels, but they tell a good story. So the sections move together well. So that's what we're focusing on here. Give me 3 days, I'll show you how to sell anything online. That's a good pitch. A big button. I think that's a huge button, but this is where I'm getting at. Like there's that other one that they had a second ago. That was a pathetic button. Look at that. That is, it's tiny. It doesn't do anything. And then we got this giant one. Clearly there's an area in between, my goodness. So here we go. Give me 3 days, I'll show you how to sell anything online. It's true, you can have the online career or side hustle you've always wanted, even if you're an introvert with 0 followers and no one knows who you are. 3-day challenge, all this stuff. So a lot of stuff going on above the fold. June 24th through June 26th. I saved this months ago, so they're clearly just running this all the time. But the challenge starts in 6 days. That's a nice timer. Timers are very impactful. This is huge. I love this. So you get to see all the 1% marketers in the world. They're up there on stage. They're teaching. You get to see their faces. That's a cool call out. For the 3-day selling online challenge, it's helped this many people. You see we've got that good bolding there, and then we underlined some things. We used parentheses. That's a good move. Special offers in a different color. And then I love doing this. Cross out your price, dull it out, and then show your new adjusted price. Easy peasy. That's a sweet move. And they've replicated their thing there. Giant button. You got to fix your ordering on your page, guys. Because see how that one overhangs and that one doesn't? That's probably a Z-score thing where this appears above this, but these two actually don't appear above this. So they probably need to adjust that. Yeah, the pictures are good. Yeah, the point. That's very sweet. That's awesome. Love that. Here's the schedule for selling online. This is the best section of the whole thing. Love that visually. I don't really need to know all this. I can go in if I want to. I'm just like, oh, look how structured it is. Look how much stuff goes in. Okay, I get a 60-minute break, but I get a bunch of sessions. That's awesome. It's no secret. You have to learn how to sell, more underlining. It's just, there's so much going on. But we're doing it from Boise, Idaho. Very cool. A little message from people. If you want more, if you want to be great, if you're a coach. So now we're doing what's known as like creating an identity. So you're like, you want more, you want to be great, you're a coach. Awesome. 3 methods of selling. Method 1, method 2, one-to-many, one-to-infinite sales. So this is how you make a ton of money. We got a picture of him teaching, telling a long story here. The online challenge, we've got a stack of the whole offer here. Still going into what we're doing on a day, like what's actually being taught day by day. Dramatically level up your sales skills, join the challenge, some social proof, before and after. So that they're just kind of, they keep going after this. So at any point you could set this down and say, yes, I'm ready. And it's like, all right, what don't they know yet? What's your investment? Cause it's not a payment, it's an investment. There's a guarantee. Why time is of the essence. This is the hard sell close. It's like, man, these people have gone down this really long page and they still haven't done it. Let's hit them with everything and then buy it. So it's a nice flow. It's like, all right, and it keeps going and it keeps going and it keeps going. But let's just deal with the top part where it's like up to the first sale. Give me 3 days. Let's teach you how to sell anything online. Join the selling challenge. You can see when it's happening. You can press play. That's nice with the arrow and everything. Then we're going to join me in the top marketers in the world. It starts in a couple of days. Here's your reduced price. Buy it. Here's what people are saying about it. And here's what you're going to learn. I love that flow. It's so short. It's so sweet. I honestly think you could end it there. If you were like a Polite brand, you'd probably be pretty good there. You could make show your offer stack, and what people are saying and call it. But this is the hard sell, and it just keeps going. ClickFunnels can be known for their hard sells, but they're objection busting, and they do a good job, and they built the whole business on it. So it is what it is. All right, a little bit more on the polite side, to maybe an extreme, is One Peak Creative, and I think this is a little bit different than when I looked at it before. It's a little bit longer. They have nice colors. They emphasize stuff well. Here's what I don't like. The black bar up here, why would you go black instead of yellow? That's one problem. Number two, I really only like centering when it's a single column. Centering in a dual column is straight bonkers. You see how I'm like, here's what I don't like about centering. I've talked about benefit first bullets in the past, where you scan down the left side and you put the thing that they really want to see on the left. So here, the only thing is master reels. Okay, I want to do that. But I actually skip visually over shorts in 2 days, because if I'm trying to scan along the left line thing, I actually have to stagger in and then go back out, and I don't want to do that. So what I say is master reels even with, or get your money back and roll. If I scan down that left side, it's really confusing. Whereas if we just move this to the left, I'd see master reels, comma, shorts, comma, even with no experience, or get your money back and roll. So at least I'm getting more than just mastering reels. I'm also getting shorts, which is cool. So I should have left justified. Okay. Square buttons. Square buttons are rough. They don't look easy, and you want people to feel good about buying from you. Don't know why they have a square button. I bet you, see, at least we rounded the corners here. Do we have rounded corners? Round your corners, everybody. Do not do right angles. That's crazy. Trusted by all these brands, and we're going through. That's cool. Testimonials with 5 stars that are the tiniest thing in the world. I don't think they had that problem when I was here before. I should be able to read them and actually see pictures and faces, but I guess I can see that they're 5 stars, which is cool. Dear creator, if you want to do this, they're bolding well, right? Good picture, 2018 trying to do this, and then 2023 we're getting millions of views. That's a lovely before and after, good use of picture. And you see how they've got this long form text, they're having to bold stuff out, and then they show pictures, and it's like, okay, here's Gary, we got him to do some stuff. And you know what, if I did all this text with all this bolding, it'd be a lot if I kept going. So I'm gonna use bullets to break it up suddenly. Enroll now. We got some larger testimonials that are actually reasonable to read. Here's what you get when you enroll today. Offer stack. Testimonial, want more proof, so we're objection busting here for people who still need to read. We think they should have bought at this point, so now we put a timer to inject some urgency. We do it ourselves. Great arrow that's pointing down, so you want to keep going. Nice bold colors. I wish they would have had that throughout. But does it actually work? Tiny testimonials, again, they need to fix that. Yeah, this is a lot better before. But yeah, the cross out, I wouldn't have done red, but it does draw attention to it, so it is what it is. And then an FAQ for handling objections. So it's good. So let's talk about what the flow is. What's the story here? You're going to master reels, even with no experience. We're trusted by people. Here's the proof. Here's our message to you. If I'm just scrolling, who were we before? We had very few views, and in 5 years we're getting millions of views. That's cool. I wish they kind of called this out, because this picture, I'm like, wait, what's happening here? I know this because it's enter Gary at 60 years old. He wanted to make this. Within a month, he had 100,000 followers and 16 million views. So what I'd do is I'd add a little bid here that I'd say 100,000 followers, 16 million views, 1 month, in 1 month. Just call that out. So if I'm scanning, I can find this here. Everything we taught him, the results were the same. At this point, I would probably read. I'm like, okay, I want details now. We package everything. We put it in here. See, they should call that out more. That should be larger. So because everything's all the same size, so they're really wanting me to read this. But if I'm a scanner, I want something like that. I'm like, give me something here to call it out. So we packaged everything we taught him into this course. The results, I got 1 million views. Yeah, you should emphasize that, break that testimonial out. I do like a whole banner here. Have someone saying something and really pull it out. We followed the formula within 2 days, had over 1 million views. Here's what you'll learn. Yeah, that's fine. Can't wait to see there, Meg. Testimonials. So the flow itself is good, but from a design perspective, from a call out perspective, I think it could use some work. what's the story here? I don't think this is a very nice page from a design perspective, but they again, they tell a good story. What you're about to see is, so we have this nice highlight here. What you're about to see is happening completely automatically without you needing to lift a finger. That's a great start. That's the first thing I look at. I look at that before I look at anything else. So that's important. The simple and fun way to get more people to complete your online course, get started free. People love to play games. Yeah, oh, I love this page. Yeah, people love to play games. So we show some pictures, go through. We have people saying great stuff about it. A number of marketers know but won't talk about. What do we look at? Obviously, this thing's bold and highlighted. That's sweet. And we show the problem here. Course progress is 3% complete. And that's so real. I've sold courses for a while. 50% of people will not open your course. Like, they'll never sign in. It's crazy. It is what it is, but it's harsh. Why people don't complete your courses? Hard and work. I wish they pulled that out a little bit more, but this one is just like storytelling on steroids. This above the fold kind of sucks. It is what it is, but everything else is so good. Love it. So we're going through the simple and fun way to get more people to complete your course. People love to play games. Number marketers won't talk about, 3% complete. That's a nice marriage between your headline and your picture there. 97% of people won't complete it. So either way you go, whichever direction you go, you're getting the same message, which most people won't complete it. Why people don't complete your courses, it's hard and it's work. I'd focus on that more. The heart of the problem, if they go through your course, they're much less likely to buy another course from you in the future. If they don't go through. All right, so we go through. We get the highlighted section. If they don't go through your course, they're much less likely to buy another course from you in the future. Okay, that's the heart of the problem. Great. I don't need to read the rest of that. That's great. And the power of gamification is its universal phenomena. It's just the power of gamification. I guess I see this guy, he's happy and he's on his phone. So I assume he's engaging. Love this. So everything so far has been horizontal. And suddenly we have this tilted thing with some graphics. We have that nice stagger there. I'm actually going to read this. The first industry to take advantage of gamification was the travel industry. They used loyalty points. The expected outcome, 15% of travelers actually redeem their points because accumulating points is satisfying and fun. Delta Airlines has these. Hertz has these. The companies can be generous with benefits because only small people will use them. Cool. I like that. Your competition isn't who you think. Now, these bright colors are really standing out. So I actually pay attention to that first. That gets me to stop. Your competition isn't who you think. I'm just going to assume actually all of these people are my competition because they're trying to get attention. They're pulling me away from my course. It's easier to watch Instagram, which is somehow on there twice, but great. The powerful science behind gamification, B.F. Skinner. It's simple to gamify your course. That's what I read down there. Trusted by over 10,000 course creators. Again, I don't have to read all this. I just caught that barely. When used 10 correctly, 10 to 30 times more students. Great. Get started free. The gamification triggers that skyrocket your results. Trigger number 1, points. So, hey, look, I get points. Oh, and that one's yellow. Wow, I got lots of points. Valuable rewards. I don't know what to take away from that. Urgency and FOMO. Yeah, countdown. No one wants to miss out. Okay, some timers, that's cool. Social proof, yeah, that's cool. People, it looks like people are saying stuff there. Those are badges, but it looks like they're like reviews. So I don't love that. I think they could do that a little bit better. Community, cool, yeah, people are talking, awesome, they're having fun. Celebrations, you win. That should be way more exciting. That should be like, blow the thing, confetti coming down. That would be sweet. If I were designing this, I would make confetti cannons shoot from the side when you got here. They'd fade as I scrolled down. I'd see celebration 1, celebration 2, celebration 3, personalization. Yeah, sure, whatever that is. There's no buttons to buy. I just have to keep going, and I've gotten bored at this point. Okay, let me buy. There we go. Okay, now I can get started for free. Cool. And then there's the sandbox plan. I don't really know what I'm getting. Anyways, I think you see how scrollable this was. As you're scrolling through, you really feel like you're getting the story through the things, and that's exceptional. I would say that's a masterclass in telling a story with bullets. Their design, little weak, but from a good design perspective, and this is not going to be very, direct response. So don't take this from a marketing perspective. We're just looking at this from a design perspective. This is by Chris Doe. He's a designer over at The Future on YouTube. Pocket full of dough, buy my thing, scroll through. The business book for creatives, nice picture there. Form, function, and flair. Black, luxurious. Take a look inside. You'll learn about relationships, creativity, beliefs, and love stood out to me there. Pricing, sales and negotiation, curiosity, marketing, stand out, mindset. Life isn't fair, it never was. If you feel stuck, this is what I was saying with the testimonial call out on that other page for these people, is that there is a quote in here, I think, right? Yeah, that should have been called out like that. Like, just give me a section so it really stands out. From the mind of Chris Do, I know this guy. I always knew I wanted to start a company. I was born creative. Nice little signature there. All right. So again, a lot less direct responsive, but it was a good story that I was able to get through. It's for creatives. It's function and flair. You're going to learn a bunch of stuff. I'm Chris. You know me. So that's pretty sweet. All right. Different stories for different situations. Now, we did the long full-time filmmaker earlier. Now we're just talking about good design. So I'm going to X out of those. And hopefully the short full-time filmmakers is a little bit better. So yeah, look, the all caps, why did they give up on that? I think someone on your team made that change and wasn't thinking. Sorry. 10 secrets to cinematic videos here. If you want a little bit more, you'll learn this. Now, go ahead and buy. That's like perfect for the people who are just trying to get it real quick. And then for the skeptics who want a little bit more information, there you go. Do the dang thing. Come on, it's free. So that's awesome. So now we're just looking at good design, like it looks good, not necessarily it tells a story. So now we're really focusing on the elements on page, right? Nice gradient on the button, nice gradient up here. We've got the blue brackets that really calls it out. We have this nice gradient with that instead of being solid, it has the faint grid back there. That's pretty sweet. You know, you can navigate their site, but then you have the nice call out there that even moves. That's cool. We've emphasized the stats that we want to do here. Could have added a picture over there, like an emoji or an icon, but it's not necessary. Featured in, these people, very nice. I like the change in featured in there, that it's a little bit brighter and it has the bracket so that you know to look at it. How we help you. 2 things. I think that used to have more. Grower model with our 4C model, create, capture, connect, convert. I like the pictures up there. That's what I was talking about earlier. I like this bracket thing as a call out. That's a cool highlight that they're able to do. Some good reviews, right? I like the dark on dark. You can expand out to get Nick's story, but we have all their pictures. This is sweet. So this is just like all the things they do for SEO. It's like, okay, you can go there. You can learn more if you want to. You can change, you know, who you're looking for if you want to, but just like the default is pretty sweet. Nice use of colors there to really help stuff stand out. They clearly don't want you to do this. They want you to scan, but if you're the skeptic, it's easy to go in and get a little bit more. That's cool. Download these resources for free. Nice use of the blue. They're clearly emphasizing this one over the other column. So that's a fun one. Here's their like engage with us, lots of different things that you can do. Lots of things you can learn and engage. We're super knowledgeable, free instant access, very nice, well designed, good spacing between stuff, good use of spaces, and people doing interesting things. That's great. Circle, your coaching business simplified. Hey, look, that nice thing, nice gradient button there, nice round corners, very unintimidating. A nice video that we can play here. I like that it's showing us a little bit there. You can see who've talked about it. Testimonial, good spacing, lots of good use of bullets, nice numbered list there. Nice call out there with a color that breaks up the white background. This is supposed to give off the simple vibe. Here's that pastel palette I was talking about where we have lots of different colors, sort of like the newspaper we looked at earlier. We can use purple and then blue and then red and then green and then purple again, and it still feels kind of united. But because it's different, you're compelled to look at each new section. Great quote call out, nice colors, nice movement, lots of different colors in here, all kind of fitting a slightly more saturated version of the colors we've seen on the rest of the page, which is great. Yeah, good. Nice call out there on top with the color on the button. So we've got that all caps on top of that to really call it out. And we're using blue to emphasize what we really want them to do. Easy, good one. Ham radio, weirdly enough. I thought this is a really cool page. Good colors. They start off with their testimonial on top. That's the biggest thing. You've probably already heard of them. You're coming to read about them, and it's like, hey, people love us. All right, so we can do this. As seen on, you start to see the real similarity between all of these. Level 1, level 2, level 3, those are the different things you can do, you can learn. We've got the sale going on. There's a timer. People love us, really emphasizing that, how it works, step 1, step 2, step 3. Yeah, nice and easy. Look, you're getting your thing. That's step 3. Good for you. Lots of people trust us. Here are the benefits. There are problems. So that's great. I don't have to read it. It's like, hey, in fires and storms, I'm able to call. I don't have to read all this. But if I did, at least we use the bullets instead of doing all long form written out. So that's well done. And here are the kind of final things I want to hit on is there's a guarantee. It's fast and easy. It's designed for beginners. It's proven and effective. It's for all learning styles. It's convenient. It's customer support. And there's an A+ rating. Oh, awesome. I'm ready to go. I want to buy. And if I wasn't, here's some more testimonials. It's taught by experts. Here are the different levels you can buy. FAQ. Very well done. Very well laid out. You can see how that's the 12 gauge landing page. Craft a magnetic brand. Man, look at the color contrast on this page. Look at that random handwritten thing that she threw in there. I like this because she's very direct response, but she also has great branding, which is a rare combination to see. Nice light blue thing that she was able to do here. Brand voice guide for yourself and your clients. Join now. She has this nice like paper cutout she does for her images that really makes things stand out against the backgrounds. And that's just her whole brand. That's such an easy thing to do. Just find a way you want to present an element and do it over and over again. That was like what Authority Hacker did with their brackets, right? So I'm just going to throw brackets around stuff. And she's like, oh, I'm going to do the paper cutout thing. Cool. Yeah. So these are the problems people are having. Nice. I like that fly in. And then we're crossing out problems and putting in good things there, right? Evoke your authentic brand voice. They say something. They stand for something. They make you feel something. I can barely, your brand rally cry. That's a hard font to read there, but it is what it is. That's cool. So we have like this stack of everything you're going to get, which is an offer stack, but I like the arrows and the actually like what you're getting stuff in there. That's very cool. Here are all of our reviews, more of what you get, and we're showing you exactly what you get. Really breaking it out into each individual thing, into different modules. Again, we have that nice angle thing that really makes it kind of stand out and stick out a little bit. More lightning, very cool. By the end of this program, you'll be able to walk away with your very own brand voice guide. So that's like a before and after. That's sweet that you get to have that. The nice count up thing, that's very cool. Good consistency of kind of the similar color vein thing. I wish that would stop counting up. That should just stay there once I'm up there. Otherwise, it looks like you have a 70% satisfaction rate, but join the posse. Here's some more testimonials. Why you need a brand voice guide. Yeah, it's good. It's well designed. Great pictures. Great use of backgrounds. Instead of just having a white background, we have a texture. We have that nice paper cutout. Lots of nice bright colors. So we're able to fit in a lot of stuff and not necessarily make it feel insanely pushy. I like that stack up. That was cool. Look, you're getting all these things. And then buy it. Here's some more people. Buy it. Cool. Final one is from AdsRx. They teach you how to make really good ads and how to do kind of direct response video stuff. Unlock the secrets. We're making this glow. That's sweet. Love that. Level up. That's a cool thing to be able to put behind them. Even without watching it, I'm like, oh, okay, great. And I've got a video behind. Looks like I'm editing, but it's not the thing I'm supposed to focus on. Great. I wouldn't have done the 2 column there. I think that's bad practice because let's say, we're going down, we're pointing towards people. We want to watch the video below. That should be centered, and over 400 members is not that good of a stat. So I wouldn't have done that. Who is AdsRx for? That's good. I wouldn't have made people scroll through for that. I would have made people do that all in one. But visually, you see, hey, this is cool. Here's the different things you're going to learn. You can watch the videos there. A nice call out there. The glow is really sweet for things you want to emphasize on. The different colors and text. We're doing all caps on everything here, which I don't really love. But the emojis, the different colors, that's popping. The glow is such a sweet thing that you're able to do. Nice bullets. Good more emojis. We have the use of blue containers. Everything's rounded. Blue buttons on it, which does nothing. It just emphasizes it, I guess. That's a little confusing. Yeah, nice use of green there. Yeah, we have lots of colors we can do against this a black background or the dark background. Long form, I'm not looking at any of that. Here's a big one. Hey, he got into the 2 comma club on ClickFunnels, probably, unless he bought that just to prove it. Great picture. You can see how he's grown and their production capacity. That's cool. Here's the team. Here's what they're doing. I see blood, sweat, and tears. I got that. That was cool on the bullet. So that's why you put big things on front, because I caught that as I was going through. That's a great call out. Big testimonial. I stopped there. Nice 5 stars. From who? Big image of who they're from. No pictures. I wish we could do pictures, but a lot of times people don't want their pictures and stuff, so it is what it is. Absolutely loving this course. References herself. That's a little while. Anyways, enroll now. Introducing AdsRx. Here's all the stuff that you get. It's a great page, man. Done for you trainings. I love those kind of like pullouts of everything you're getting. Yeah, I like the movement. This reminds me a lot of the full-time filmmaker thing, where it's just very visually appealing. So very cool. Look through that. And that's it, man. That's what we're going through. Some quick things. I think I hit on this earlier. If you're designing your emails, you can totally get away with just copying emails. In fact, in many ways, that's preferable because it's easier to produce, it's faster, it's cheaper. And then 2, people are kind of, they get hit by a lot of D2C brands, a lot of e-commerce stuff, and it doesn't show a lot of personality. You're not connecting with a personality. And if you do a funny story or whatever, you're actually connecting with a real person. And despite not being as flashy, it's really impactful. So I would keep that in mind, that you can totally get away with not doing heavy design stuff. But when you're designing, make sure you do mobile first, because that's what everyone's coming in from. Make your copy scannable. Use a font that's web available. Typically, if you're building an email, they're going to kind of limit you to those. But the options are typically Arial, Courier, Georgia, Lucida Sans, Lucida Console, Tahoma, Times New Roman, Trebuchet, and Verdana. And if you're in a specific industry that's going to really depend on the visuals, like watches or cars or food, for example, you might especially want to consider doing visually interesting stuff. San Francisco, get out of here. Go away, San Francisco. Cool. All right, so that's that. So the reverse pyramid, we talked about that. If you can have this general like point down towards your button, that's a good move, especially at the top of your email. That's very smart. I showed you that with the ClickFunnels page. You can do that on landing pages as well. It's a subtle psychological trick, which is awesome. It's the perfect example of what I mean by you don't want designers with no marketing sense designing your page for you, because they could totally not do this. It's like, all right, it could just look nice. It's like, no, your design needs to have a goal. You need to know where your copy's laid out. Why does it? Because you might write too much copy and not be able to make the shape with it, right? So you need to know as a designer, or as a copywriter, what shape it's going to take, how much is too much. You know how you want to lay it out to get better conversions. And it has nothing to do with and all of the a lot of the effectiveness of this has nothing to do with the words you picked, which is why you need to have some design knowledge under your belt before you start writing, right? You can do this over and over again and have a pyramid, just like pyramid. Click to the button, go to a new section. Here's our bars, go to a new section. Here's our way isolate pattern, go to a new section. Here's our chocolate chip cookie, click the button, right? You can do that over and over again if you want, or you can move into a zigzag, which is like copy on the left, picture on the right, picture on the left, copy on the right. You can do that over and over and over again as well. Very popular tactic, incredibly powerful, good system. GIFs, memes, things like that, if you don't have good product photography, are also good things that you can pull in. All right, talked about this earlier. Which came first, the copy or the design? It's what works for you and your team. For me, it's copy, outline, design, outline, copy, full, design, full. And you go back and forth until it's just right. But typically, it's best to be a copywriter who understands design, and to work with a designer who understands copywriting a little bit. If you're ambitious, you can do both. And then the process gets super seamless and it's easy to do. All right. Final email designs. Just want to talk about some emails that I like their designs real quick. All right, so let's talk about some good design. Again, this is Wicked Protein. They have cool stuff. I like this pattern back here. I like that it generally points towards the button. Heart, Soul, Protein, good headline. You typically only have like 3 or 4 words to play with there, so there's only so much you can do. And when you have to put out emails every day, multiple times a week, you know, it's like, all right, it is what it is. Unraveling is our mission, dive into our story. Okay, so we're sharing our story here. That red slice there is nice, that it's not flat, that it goes down and across. Pure Protein promise, use this, get 50 off, that's cool. Or get 5 off, that sure looks like 50. $5 on your next purchase. There's a break there that I don't love, but it looked cool. It would have looked cool that the cookie was popping off there. Again, that nice circle there that kind of creates some shape and it's not flat across. You can make things overlap to really stick out. Cleanliness, cool. So you see we have triangle number 1, we have triangle number 2, we have triangle number 3, and they're really pushing the limits of triangle there, but I think it helps that, you know, they're putting stuff up here. So it kind of feels like I can make that shape there. That one I think was a fail, that they didn't make it quite as much there. So I would have gone, I might have deleted that part there, protein bars, cookie protein powder, and just put that centered. And that would have allowed me to have a little bit more of a point there and maybe made that a little bit smaller so that it didn't, I'd like to be able to take this whole section in and not cut anything off. And then some quick stats at the bottom. That's cool. Next one. More Wicked Protein. So this time we're not doing that. So it's cool. It's a good picture. I wanted the button above the fold, right? I come in here, I go, welcome to Wicked Protein. I go, up, X, I'm out. They're really having some issues with this breaking. Maybe that's something that's going on with my browser. I don't know. I wish the code was a little bit larger so that I could highlight it a little bit easier. Good Shop Now button. I'd round out those corners. Discover the Wicked Protein difference. I like that. That's good copy there. And then you see they have the zigzag here. I think that's probably why I saved it, was mostly for the zigzag. That's cool to be able to highlight multiple products that way and just go back and forth. Again, I'd round out the corners. Generally, you should be rounding your corners. You can go full round or you can just ease the corners a little bit. Okay, this is a neckwear brand. My wife got this for me for her wedding. And she sent me this email or showed it to me and I was like, oh, that's a sweet email. Okay. Beautiful colors, great picture. Love it. The button's way too far down. I do actually like this white button, like just visually over, it's transparent so you can see the creases and everything. That's good. I actually like that. Because everything's dark, 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 dark. And then we have this like, oh, ooh. But honestly, it'd still probably do better if we had like a yellow or something there that really popped out on that green. Something, hey, roughly that color. I wish this wasn't so long and we could actually get to this, but I bet you on the phone, it probably looks a little bit better. I still think Shop Now is probably coming in under that. What happens if I just shrink this? Will that work that way? No, it will not. Okay, gifts under 60, neckties, knitted ties. So here they're not even doing the zigzag, they're just doing 2 columns. I would have gone zigzag, but they probably wanted something different. But there we go, zigzag. Hey, that's a nice triangle there. And then I love that triangle on the dark spot of the page. So it feels like this is all one thing, but you're like, oh wait, that's actually the background of this picture. And it's very cohesive that it just goes through. So I'm sure what they did is they just have a PNG here. Yeah, you can see they could have cut that out a little bit better, but they didn't. Order by that day. Yeah, I don't know. I probably would have put that over here, like do AUS and then US here. I don't love the extra line there. And then I would have had to divide them somehow. I don't know. That's not my favorite section. But anyways, mostly really beautiful photography, good repeated use of zigzags and reverse pyramids. Victos, tactical company. Again, on mobile, I bet you this works. On PC, it's not working quite as much, but it is what it is. Again, you're mostly designing for mobile, so this is probably good. I like that we have Black Friday that really emphasizes it. We know it's a sale. We have some details down there. Nice lighter text difference up top. You know, we've got a contrasting text. Shop Now, you have this nice cross out showing the prices in different colors. That's cool. You have the different color options. I love that. That's sweet. Again, showing discounts, showing all the different color options. This is a very sweet email. And then generally, Yeah, they're showing the price. It's triangle-y, but you have the shop now down here. After you've given them some information, it probably works well for them, but they are slightly bending those rules. Again, sometimes you master the rules and then bend them to fit your particular needs and your particular audience. So I assume they're probably fine with that. Cosmos Barbecue, really nice designs. They prefer that zigzag thing. You got to get a button above the fold. So you really need to put a button there. But generally, just really great product photography, really great. I love that typography there. It has a lot of personality in it. And then the buttons should be rounded and these should touch together. I'm sure my browser is doing something, but those would all run together and that would look really sweet. I like how they're putting the buy now button. Physically, it overlaps the image. That's awesome. Goes back and forth and it says, looking for inspiration. I would have gone larger text there so that it could still point down like that. Make that pyramid, but otherwise great. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful stuff, minus the breaks that are weirdly being introduced by my stuff. Love that call out on top. Good use. Again, great font. Really love the personality that's being showcased there. That's a great picture for showing variety. And I think it's on a slight slash. I don't think that's straight across. Marsha, stop. I love this sort of like almost coupon cutout feel they have here. Marsha, stop. All right, those should be touched together. They're not, so they're clearly stitching images together, which is a bummer. But cow cover rub, yeah, cool. I love those sorts of breaks between things instead of doing straight lines, doing some sort of a shape or an angle. That's great. Good picture. Very good. So that's it. So when do we get started? Tomorrow. I know so far we've been just going through a lot of theory. Yes, we're practicing at the end of the day, but we haven't done a lot of specifics. We're just going over, again, a lot of that high level theory. It's done. Buckle up. Tomorrow, we're going to start writing real emails. We're going to start writing real landing pages. You've got all the principles. You're good to go. Now you just need to put them in practice. But for now, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to do some live practice. I'm going to create a landing page. You're going to do the same thing, by the way. But I'm going to, while we're here together, we're going to create a landing page together. I'm going to take some of my favorite copy from last week. I think I'm going to do the one that I was talking about for the backpack. I was like, oh, actually I laid it out this way because I was already doing it. I think it'll be helpful for you to actually see it kind of come together in a full design. And then I'm going to fix Skillshare's website because Skillshare's website sucks. They have so much that they're trying to do. They use things like color. Skillshare, they use things like color to separate things, but they're just trying to emphasize so much. There's not a lot of emphasis they do with things. I don't know what I want to look at because they're trying to cram so much stuff in there. They've got those 3 testimonials. There's no picture, or 2 testimonials. There's no pictures. I thought this was another testimonial because they didn't do a good job of calling that out. They got the squiggles, which I guess I like. Just totally uninspired photography. And then an FAQ section and a featured by at the very bottom, which should have been up top. This is like, there's no image here that I want to deal with. This sign up thing here is super unconventional. I would have put an email capture here and then say, start your sign up. And then I've at least captured their email and they can do that later. So yeah, this is a rough one and it needs help, man. And they're Skillshare. They're big enough to know better, but it's not that great. So anyways, I want to make 2 landing pages for you here today. Alrighty, everyone. So I look totally different than I did last time. And that's because I did this a long time ago. In fact, I've actually finished recording the entire thing and I came back to this and I did 3 hours of live practice and it did not record properly. So I don't have the audio and the video isn't going, but I think that's a blessing in disguise because I had 3 hours of live practice. And realistically, you're here for copywriting, not a design course. So I think that was super, super overkill. So let's go through it a lot faster than last time. Let's try and keep it to 30 minutes. How's that? So I wanted to go through and just talk really briefly about what should be the PPP. All right. So last week, in real time, how you're experiencing it, we wrote a promise picture proof push landing page. And yeah, we left some areas here where like, okay, well, we're not going to label the features yet. But I already wrote that. So I took this and I put it into this landing page. So let's read through this really fast, see what we have and see what I added, right?
Meet Tactpack, the pragmatic pack that handles whatever you throw at it. Weird loadout, no problem. And then it goes into 4 different people, 4 different use cases. James Defense Contractor EDC, collapsible SBR, comms devices, survival kit, important documents. Chad's hunting EDC, extra rounds, extra layers, hand warmers, food, and a few adult beverages. Matt's Tech EDC, 17-inch laptop, headphones, external hard drive, 9mm sidearm. Craig's construction EDC, extra work gloves, med kit, sanitation kit, a change of clothes for date night, cigars to share with the boys after a hard day's work. Yet James, Chad, Matt, and Craig all have radically different loadouts, and yet all of them prefer the Tactpack for their EDC bag now. See why? Then you have a video. It is what it is. So we're not going to do that video today. We're not going to get into that because it's about taking the words on the paper and making them not so overwhelming. So I'll have credentials and backstory. So I'm going to come from my position as David and say, here's my experience in the woods. Here's what made me want to make the Tactpack. Here are the 3 key features I think you'll be interested in. Here are some reviews and testimonials, which we don't need to write per se, but we do need to kind of lay them out in an interesting way. A torture test video, because for products like this, that will be important. But again, we won't write that up. We'll just, put in a square for or a rectangle for where the video would be. And then we'll get an offer stack feature breakout. And this will feel very much like a typical kind of e-commerce thing, I think. We have the picture on the left, big title on top, maybe a key benefit, and then all your little features underneath in bullets, right? And then you have an FAQ section where you handle the objection. So let's dive in and see what I actually put here. And I'm gonna I actually have the finished version over there, but let's start here and talk about what exists so far. So you already saw all this. We already talked through that. There's claim my bag. We're keeping it like kind of how you write it in a Word doc. It's all the same size. Yes, I know you've gone to websites before. You know the difference between header and body text. It is what it is. But you come through here and you see how uncomfortable that is. I even added in like, all right, here's some places you could have heard it about before, which are totally not real things, but neither is this product. So I used a stand-in. But then you go through and you're like, yeah, literally everything is the exact same. Even that should be medium. It should match, and that shouldn't be medium italic. That should just be medium. More medium. Where's medium? There we go. And it just, everything is the same. How do you emphasize anything? Everything just, it's all the same. So one of the tests that I like to do, I think I've talked about this before, but one of the tests that I like to do is kind of scan through, and you have aggressively go through it. You might be like, I can't read it. Neither can I. And I can't see a single thing on here. Everything's black. I don't know what to focus on. Let's imagine that button is not red. All right, so I have no idea what to focus on. No words are bigger than the others except for FAQ, right? That's not good. And our buttons should both be black. I don't know why they're not. Hold up. Okay, so when I'm scrolling through and nothing is, a color that tells me anything about something, I just, oh man, what do I pay attention to? All right, so what I need to decide is what I want people to actually see when they're scrolling that aggressively. So I went through, and I think you can see what I've decided here. All right, so obviously you want your header to be big. You want your buttons to be red or blue or whatever color your text and background is in. It should really stand out from the background. You can use red kind of selectively throughout to be a nice accent color to make it feel cohesive. So you see that I'll use that throughout on my subheaders. But now you see, all right, I'm starting to emphasize these in different ways. So you can even put two things of emphasis right next to each other, right? So I've got big emphasis, less emphasis, different emphasis. Okay, we're clearly not supposed to pay that much attention to that. I'm supposed to pay attention to the names. I'm supposed to pay attention to their jobs. And in some ways, I guess I'm supposed to pay attention to what's inside because there's bullets on them, right? That looks different than the rest of the text. There's all different ways to pull out what just a moment ago felt like overwhelming sameness. And they're like, oh, okay, cool, I can see that. So same thing here. We say in action. This is the word I want people to walk away and say, when I get this bag, I am a person who takes action. I am a capable person. That's the sort of thing that I want to emphasize here. So when you're scrolling through, you see meet Tactpack, take action, right? You kind of experience it in that way. Oh, all right. So that's a great way to test it and say, hey, is this doing what I need it to do? Logos don't need to stand out too much. Hi, I'm David. I think the credentials and backstory, the credentials are important. The backstory, that's for the people who really want to dive in. They really want to know the why behind the why, which is totally a thing. Some people really want to know every reason they should support this person in this company. Great, put that on there, but generally you're not emphasizing it very much. In fact, there's a lot of stuff here you're going to scroll through, and it shouldn't feel like wasted space. And so one thing I'm going to say here is, all right, I'm going to put all of this long form text in here, but I'm going to lean a lot on pictures that kind of just give emotions, right? I'm just going to show myself doing stuff, probably doing bushcraft, camping, hiking, right? That's a great way of showing that. Maybe some tech stuff. Same thing here. All right, so we see we've got big emphasis and then lesser emphasis here. What are we doing? This is the 3 features. So these are the 3 features that we identified: rugged materials with sophisticated design, hidden tactical functionality, smart storage for your everyday gear. If you're scrolling through and you take a second to read the 3 of those, you should be good to move on, right? Again, always, when you're going through the supporting text, it's heavily just supporting text. And that's the way you should look at it. You know how to write decent copy at this point. That's going to be just decent copy for the most part. This stuff up top in your headings, whether it's your H1 or your H3s or your H2s or whatever it might be, those need to do some hard lifting. All right, so before we go in too much into some of those formatting things, let's talk about what we actually added here. So what did we not have here before? CY, credentials, and backstory. All right, let's read through the backstory. Hi, I'm David, bushcrafter, camper, hiker, tech enthusiast. My name is David. I'm the founder and designer behind Tactpack, the world's first backpack built to strike a perfect balance between tactical utility and everyday discretion. I'm a backpacker, crafter. What is happening to me? I'm a bushcrafter, camper, hiker, and lifelong gearhead. I've carried a pack every day for as long as I can remember, not because it was convenient, but because it was necessary. From the backcountry to the boardroom, I needed gear that could keep up, blend in, and never fail. But for years, I found myself choosing between 2 extremes: sleek bags that lacked durability and organization, or overbuilt tactical packs that screamed military in all the wrong places. I tolerated the latter until one day, at a local farmer's market, another CCW carrier clocked my setup immediately. My gear outed me before I ever spoke a word. That was the last straw. So I set out to build something better. Tactpack was born out of over a decade. So I should probably fix that. There's too many. Was born out of over a decade of prototyping and relentless field testing. I worked to engineer a system that was rugged enough for the wild, refined enough for the office, and discreet enough for everyday carry, all without sacrificing speed of access or smart compartmentalization. That's a rough word too. Again, this is really important. Read through your stuff. But again, this isn't a copy day. This is about how to emphasize and design. It had to be tough. It had to be intuitive. And above all, it had to disappear when it needed to. After years of refining every stitch, zipper, and pocket, I'm finally ready to share Tactpack with you, the backpack I wish I had 10 years ago. If you're someone who demands readiness without broadcasting it, this is for you. Welcome to the intersection of tactical and tactful. David Franklin, the creator of Tactpack. All right. Now I know, again, we have the features 1, 2, and 3 that we didn't do before, and we highlighted them here, right? So it's action-packed. We could probably come up with something a little bit better than that. But again, today is about just design. What do we want to emphasize and why? Of course, those are the 3 main things. So let's think about just how we emphasize it here, right? Action-packed. I know, again, I want it to be packed full of action. People want to feel like they are an action taker, someone who accomplishes something, like they're a tough person, and that's what we're going to give them in those headings, right? Mission-ready features designed to keep your essentials secure, accessible, and out of sight, so you stay prepared without sacrificing style or discretion. Basically, I don't know why there's a quote there. Basically, it's restating what we said above. For the people who really want to dive in, we're going to hit those points multiple times. For everyone else, we're going to let them fly through it. Okay, so they're going to see rugged materials with sophisticated design. If they want to dive in, they can see that the Tactpack has weather-resistant 1000D Cordura fabric and water-sealed YKK zippers. If you're in the backpack world, if you are a gearhead about these sorts of things, you might be persuaded by that, but most people won't be, right? So you just know that you want rugged materials and sophisticated design. That's a good summary without going into the nitty-gritty details. Hidden tactical functionality. Stay mission ready without broadcasting. The internal MOLLE system lets you customize your loadout with tools, pouches, or IFAKs, while the concealed fast access CCW compartment keeps you prepared when it counts without drawing unwanted attention. Smart storage for your everyday gear. Your gear deserves better than basic. A suspended, padded laptop sleeve isolates your device from sudden drops so accidental bumps don't turn into expensive repairs. That's important to me. That's a feature I know I'm looking for, but I'm also looking for YKK zippers, right? Really, most backpacks that are worth a damn do. But the RFID blocking admin panel keeps your information secure, while a microfiber lined quick access pocket shields sunglasses, lenses, or screens from scratches and impact. Again, tiny little details, but it's, you know that it'll store your gear and take care of it. That's all you really need to know if you're flying through, right? How durable is it? When I got married, I had 3 words stitched in the inside pocket of my suit. So this is, again, kind of credentials and backstory coming right? Acta non verba, deeds not words. It's a reminder that talk is easy, performance is what matters. That's why we put Tactpack to the test. Okay, so again, how durable is it? And then in that section, second emphasis, the H2 there, we know that we need to put it to the test, and you'll watch a video on it. But that detail in there, that little backstory, it tells you, for the people who really want to know more about the company and the brand, hey, is this my tribe or is this not? If you are the kind of person who thinks that talk is cheap and performance is what matters for yourself, for your products, this might be a place for you. So that's kind of reshaping people's identity a little bit. Again, red buttons, the Tactpack designed for discretion, built for battle. Again, restating the tactful but not tactical but tactful. That we're trying to say that over and over in different ways so that people really walk away without getting too repetitive, right? The Tactpack is designed for those who move between environments where attention is a liability but capability is non-negotiable. Whether you're commuting through a crowded city or hiking in the backcountry, the pack delivers low-profile strength with tactical precision. Small and more streamlined than bulky tactical bags, the Tactpack balances form and function with thoughtful discretion focused on real-world performance without drawing unwanted attention. And then we're going to go through all the key features. The only thing with these is generally, if you can put a benefit in front, you can. Like if I'm looking for 1000D Cordura, you don't want to say nylon 1000D Cordura. You want to put the 1000D up front, right? It is what it is. That's more like feature first bullets, but this is not the place where we're redoing the benefits, right? All right, so moving on. Same thing here. We wanted to emphasize the final features with benefits, right? So here we were very feature heavy. For people who are still scrolling, we wanted, okay, these people are emotional. We want them to feel emotional about it, right? So low profile, quick draw CCW. That's a feature, but it feels more like you're getting something, right? It lay flat main compartment, stealth stretch side pockets, 3D molded back panel with vents. And I think we're good there. I don't think we need to keep going. But as you're scrolling through, now let's actually get into the design of it all. What am I at? 14 minutes? Okay. Let's just look at this. All right, meet Tactpack. Obviously, we want a picture of the bag. It's designed to tackle any challenge you throw at it. Again, I know I have these emphasized, but it's much better to see people and see construction loadout, see that they're a hunter, see that they're a defense contractor than actually do this. And generally, this section, I could have just as easily organized it this way, but I knew I had 4. I knew that I wanted to do them in columns, but when you just put it there, you're like, it's not emphasized at all. It's still in the same thing here. Now I could maybe do a line here. Well, I guess my line should be straight up and down, huh? I could maybe do a line here between all of them, like that, right? Now they're separated out a little bit, and yeah, it does separate out more. But I think even more than that. A rectangle or a square might make sense. Is that what I have over here? I'm ready to start doing some stuff to it. Okay, yeah. So let's go ahead and add in some boxes here really fast. Hopefully that will not go too far like that. All right, ba-doom, ba-doom. And I'm doing this very roughly, not trying to be precise about anything. All right, so I need you to go there. All right. So let's not even think about color yet. I'm doing like a rough design of it here, right? Okay, so if I do that, I find that I like having these here, but I feel like they're distracting for non-designers because you're just like, how do I even really see this? All right, so what I want to do is just get something a little bit bigger there. All right, I think you see how that really helps separate it from the other stuff on the page, right? All right, so we got that. Let's go ahead and make some room. All right, we're going to make some room for a big picture of the backpack there. So we basically want to have the button. So if we're, coming to the page, the button is still on the bottom before, so we kind of want a backpack there, if that makes sense. But we don't want to push it so far that it's off the page, right? That we can't see it. So we'll keep it kind of there. All right, this needs to move a little bit down, I think, because I think that we want that top section to just separate out a little bit from that top area. All right, see Tactpack in action. I think that section's pretty good. Generally, when you don't have a lot of complicated stuff, one thing that's worth acknowledging here that I've talked about before that I didn't do here is if I went as full wide as I can, especially with something that's a 16-point font, you notice that that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, like 25 words long, right? So that's not good. That's hard. It's difficult for you to kind of reset at the previous line. So if this was like 24, let's do 36, just to make an example. Now, it's not really about how wide it is, it's how many words wide it is, if that makes sense. So here we have 4, 8, 10. It's only 10 words. That's much easier to read. So one thing you want to do, and why I operate with those columns on all the time, is it's pretty easy for me to say, okay, that's way too many words. I want to restrict it to those columns, and it snaps to, this is specifically in Figma, right? And then I go, okay, that's not as bad. Maybe I'll try one more. Do I want to reduce it that much? That's pretty good. I do think I'm going to go a little bit further out though. But now it's a lot easier to kind of process all those words, because when you have all those words basically in a single line, it's just so distracting. All right, so I think that's pretty good. Maybe I want to set that to be semi-bold, maybe semi-bold, put that at 24, something like that. No, maybe at 20, and it won't be in the final version. That's just me kind of reviewing it. And I think that looks too much like the bold up there. So what I'm going to do is do bold italics, semi-bold italic, so that, hold up, my light is getting in my way, so I can't see my whole screen. Semi-bold italic, there we go. So now it's just a little bit different. All right, good. This section's good. It should probably be red. That's a distracting thing. You can see the red that I have over there. So I'm just gonna take that and pop that in there. Okay. Now the black is hard to read. That's the wrong section. I'm crazy. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me. Okay. Now the red really stands out. That really tells me I'm supposed to stop there. And I like that. This is a social proof section. Social proof is really important on pages. So whereas I could have gone black, I sure could have. Nope. I could have gone black, and you kind of would have known to have stopped. But again, it doesn't stand out quite as much. So I want to use, remember, red is my emphasis color. So I want to really use that sparingly. Here, it's doing a really important job because it's the only thing that's red there, right? Here, this is just a, it's a secondary call to action. It's not as important. It's okay for me to put a bigger red thing next to it. And I think here the social proof is more important, right? So I'm going to do that. All right, so I'm looking at this. This is just way too much stuff. It's too long. And so what I want to do here is I remember I said I want to do pictures. I think I'm going to do 3 of them. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And what I need to do, okay, hold up. I'm going to put that halfway over and make sure that my picture is, giving me some room there. Is that gonna work? Yeah. Sorry, you can already see my design on the other side, but enjoy your sneak peek since I'm working backwards. All right, so we're gonna pull that down a little bit. And I'm going to put my 3rd picture over there. Again, why are we doing this? Because it's so text heavy. I want people who are scrolling through. The main thing here is to say, hey, look, I'm like you. I'm in your industry. And so what I want to do is kind of separate this out. So I set out to build something better has to be the end of that line, right? It just has to be. That's the end of a thought. So we're going to make sure that that section makes sense together. Okay. It may be too long though. Where did I break it before? Oh man, halfway in. Ooh, that's a bummer. Ideally, I would have broken that earlier. Compartmentalization, it had to be tough. Okay. So I think you see roughly what I'm going for. And again, I don't need to be perfect because I already have a finished version over there. I'm just kind of showing you how I would block this off so that it makes sense. Generally, I want to even that out, so it kind of I want to either justify it to the top so it's even with that on top, or I want to center it with everything. I'm going to go tiny bit down. Yeah. Is that what I did? Yeah, I did. Cool. And then I'm going to have pictures of me doing it in there, right? That makes sense. Let me go ahead and get rid of my columns, though. So I think you can see how instead of the big wall of text now, the main thing you need to get is that I'm David. I do these things. You can glance over all that. It's not that important. You're just going to see pictures of me doing it, right? That's what's important here. Hey, I'm someone who does what you do. I said earlier I was going to do bushcrafter, camper, hiker. I'm just going to do one. I'm doing what you do. Here, I'm working on developing the product. Here, I set out to build something better. And here's me using it or something like that, right? Action path. Oh, one thing I didn't talk about here is, remember I said I wanted the picture? So I'm going to need like a... Do I still have the red thing there? No. So let me create a temporary stand-in for those. Why? Why have you done this to me? Whatever, I'll just make it any old color or red. There. Match the red-ish. Okay. Because what's important here is more so that I just kind of get the spacing of it all right. So when I'm doing those squares, that's because I know I'm going to need to go get images later. And this is a perfect opportunity to use AI. I tell you, don't use AI to write all that much. I know I will. I do a long form email in a couple of days where you'll see me do that. And the reason why is because it's a email sequence. And so I have to write like 5 emails all in a row to make them all go together. It's like, okay, well, it's more about how do you connect these ideas together. So I do use AI a little bit. And when I was doing this, if you haven't noticed the M dashes throughout, that's because I was like, okay, realistically, this episode isn't about me telling a story about my time in the woods. It's about me showing you how to format copy, right? And so you'll notice a lot of those M dashes because I told it what I wanted to say, but I had it write my copy for me. All right, so here we are going back through. I say that because I know I don't have a real James, Chad, Matt, and Craig. And so I find people there who kind of look like that. I want to use that same box. Is why that made me think of going up there, because I want a picture there, right? Okay. I'm going to make that just kind of a darker gray so that everything shows up. Here's again, I know I operate with it on. Ding, ding. All right, here you are. That's why I keep that on, right? So that I can do that and see what I'm doing. Gonna add in a picture above it. So I need those to all scroll down to there. I'll back those sections up so that they go around like that. And generally I'm trying to add in a little padding around the sides. The padding makes it a little bit easier to look at. The padding is like spacing. Sorry, that's a kind of insider term. We're getting to the end here. I think I'm going to, in the interest of time, speed things up here. You don't need to see me actually do all of that. We're gonna leave that VSL section about the same. Okay, all right, you're gonna be weird about that. Okay, slide that down. That VSL section looks pretty good as is. The Tactpack, main thing here is that that's too much. We're gonna break that into two shorter things like that. And I'm not gonna be perfect about it, right? And now I'm gonna put them next to each other like that. Slide that over there. Pull all my stuff over here like so. Throw my button there. And then that'll allow me to put in like a big picture up here and a couple small ones down here, right? All right, so that's roughly that. And then the same boxes up here, I'm gonna put that same sort of thing down here so I can have more pictures. I think you can see already how that's a little bit better to scroll through than what we had before, especially back here, but it just gets better and better each stage. So let's look at it at the end here. What have we done? We've put in a picture of our backpack. I love doing this using some sort of background color as a divider, like a real thing, not just a color, right? A texture. So it's the ballistic nylon back there is what you see. I added in some social proof at the very top because again, some people will never scroll. They'll just get here and it's like, okay, I want to claim my bag. Great. So we'll make it possible for them. That black looks nice. It really helps the people stand out. Use AI to make those. Then I really wanted to say, see Tactpack in action. And I wanted to almost command them to go watch it. So I added some arrows in here. That's not me, but it's a person backpacking, someone working on a backpack, and there's the finished product, just like I said. And I added in my signature for a touch of personality. Added in a background here. I'm not psyched about that. I'd probably play with that a lot longer and maybe take some custom pictures if I were actually launching this, but something other than just like if I just did this as a black background. Did I even do that right? Odd. There we go. It's just so boring like that. So it's better to have something a little bit interesting, a little bit gray, whatever. Might play with some gradients or whatever. Anyway, some good solid images that show what you're trying to do there. Because again, what you're trying to show them is this is rugged. People are so visual. This is one thing that copywriters can forget sometimes, is the direct response nature of your page can be heavily designed. Hey, smart storage, you could just show me that it fits everything in there. Hidden tactical functionality, just showing me like pull out, a sidearm out the side, or, it's rugged, it's getting thrown in the dirt, water coming out. That is so much more impactful than just writing it. How durable is it? This is really important that people see videos in this industry. It just is what it is. And then you see all the images that we put in. So there you go. I think that displays pretty well what all we're going for. And of course you can navigate through and see all the different pictures and stuff. So there you go. I think that is a good example of that. We're at 30 minutes exactly for that. Now I did have one other thing I wanted to get to today, and I've obviously already done this, but let me go to Skillshare's website. Skillshare is a massive website. And again, I'm really big on direct response for non-direct response situations. So they're not going to do, hey, you have to order in 20 hours, or you're going to gain all this weight, or have all these problems in life, or your family's going to hate you and leave you, or your body's going to fall apart and your back's going to give you all these issues, right? Those are the sort of like direct response ads and landing page and video tactics that really help sell things people have never heard of you before, but people have heard of Skillshare. And so they get by on the fact that people like them. They like their courses. People talk about them. But this is not a good page. The best thing that we get here, creative classes taught by the best creative pros. That's nice, I guess. 7 days free of Skillshare. That might even be more important if I already know who you are. I really think this section is good, where you're seeing all the different things I can learn. That's great. Creative learning made easy. Interestingly enough, that's the actual thing. That's the actual benefit up here. That should be your headline. Creative learning made easy. Get 7 days free of Skillshare, and then here are your benefits. I would put all that up here before your button, and I try and make this entire top section. Remember, we were doing a Tactpack where we want that button above the fold. Put that sign up button down here and use all the rest of this space. Use every last bit of it that you can, right? So we're gonna go through, because we're on black, and more black, it's really hard to get things to stand out here, right? So we have a gray box. We're not even supposed to look at that, I guess. But remember, I went out of my way here to use little pops of color and to show that up there. And yet they're just going to kind of bury the fact that they have a high rating. Man, put that up top. Make that really easy to see for people, right? And that you have all of these teachers, all of these classes, all of these members. Those are great things. I would either put that up top in, you know, a little badge up there, or right under the main section. Like imagine a big white area here. We just do one black section that had all of this here, and then you terminate that row there, and then go to a background of blue or something, and then we go into explore inspiring online courses. Going through here, those are great. I kind of like these. I think this came after I did it before. Like I said, I did this a while ago. So what did they have before? Yeah, see, there's that strip. Remember, you go from one color to another. So I emphasized it more with color, so it stands out more. Again, the important part is the top number. So you use some green to make it stand out from the rest of it. And yeah, I think I just deleted whatever that feature section was, because the thing I want to know is that I'm mastering technique from the pros, right? That's great. Creative learning made easy, all of our reviews. Here's everything we need to do. And you can see that I took all of those cool things. And there's a lot of different ways you could present all of those, all of these courses that you did. You could actually have something that slowly went by in the background. You could did what I did in some sort of a collage. There's so many ways to do it. That's not the important part. The important part from a copywriting perspective is that you get the important stuff on top, and that these are just to kind of overwhelm you with everything you can learn, right? And so there's several different ways we could do that. Master technique from the pros. They did have that section way down here at the bottom where you say learn from creative experts. Learn from is like learn more. It's just kind of a gross way of presenting. Not gross. It's just sad, you know? Do I want to learn, or do I want to master something? It is the worst way of presenting what you're getting from something if you're doing information products. So do not do that. You want to master techniques from the pros. Ooh, what a thing, right? Why Skillshare is better. Did we have anything like that before? It said Skillshare for teams, and then it has why students love Skillshare. So we have reviews. I like to put reviews a little bit further down, but again, that section isn't doing anything there. So we said why Skillshare is better, learn anything, accomplish anything. Let's compare that to our previous. Explore inspiring online course. You want to be inspired? Is that what you really want? Do you want to explore, or do you want to learn anything and accomplish anything? Right? You have to reframe it in terms of benefits. But from a design perspective, that's pretty good. Just the headlines weren't doing anything that they needed to, right? Transform your career with Skillshare, which I think, again, they had that section before. Did they? Or did I totally make these? Oh, they didn't. I thought that this needed to be added, right? What is the main benefit? So we've gone through here. So I want to learn creatively. That's good. I want to master techniques. I want to know that Skillshare is better. I want to learn anything and accomplish anything. Those are all great. But let's go why one more time. Why do I want to do those things? It could be because I always think of myself as an artist. I want to make it in the creative industry. Or it could be because I want to get hired. And most of the people who are going to Skillshare, I think it's because they want to get hired. So let's put that in there, man. Let's emphasize that. Transform your career with Skillshare. I pulled these from, I think from Kajabi's website, maybe, and took their stories and everything. That's really not important. I'm not trying to steal anything. Just, I'm not making a real page here. I'm just showing you how you would improve it. Get some real case studies on people who've used your product and show them here. Show a lot of people. Show them actually doing what you want to do. Because Kajabi's like, hey, with our product, look at these people who made a bunch of money. Great. Show them here doing that. And they don't have that. Why students love Skillshare? Yeah, they have 4 of them, right? That's obviously really important, that social proof. And it's just black on white with 4 squiggles. I know you don't always have pictures of people, but this is why you go and offer people money. I mean, these are all stock images, but you can go through and say, hey, can we have like $50? Can we give you $50 for using your face? Because your face is really important for actually selling things. This is not like something you don't want to be associated with, So I think that would be huge, and really emphasizing these are real people. Here are their names, and then the FAQ, and then a featured in would be great. Is that what they have at the bottom already? Yeah, totally fine. You can leave that how it is. But again, just how they presented this is Like they're putting some of their best copy too far down. They're not emphasizing their key stats. And then nowhere are they actually talking about their benefits. This is just the problem that a lot of non-direct response companies have, is they just talk about what they offer. They're just so feature heavy. That's not what people are here for. Talk about what people want to get out of it. Talk about their goals. Tell them that they can accomplish their goals. Tell them that they get to walk away with what they came for. And talk about that you're going to accomplish your goal in an easier way, or faster, or cheaper, or whatever it might be, right? All right, very good. I think that's all we had. I think 37 minutes is significantly better than the 3 hours I spent before. And yes, I will in the future kind of go further into landing pages. I have a whole episode on landing pages. So I think originally I was like, man, I really should do this because this is the thing that I'm best at, is making these like really kind of nicely designed landing pages. It was getting to be way too much, like way too much. So not only will there be more in this course, but as I continue on the channel, because sales pages are my specialty, along with VSLs, video sales letters, I'll do more of that in the future. So this one, let's keep it easier. This is a copywriting course. It's not getting into landing pages. Thank you very much. Hopefully that's a little bit easier. And now let's pause as I pull up your homework.
Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. We're going to talk about your copywriting homework now. So you're going to do the same thing I did. You don't have to fix Skillshare's website, but you're going to take some of your copy you've done over the last couple of days. You're going to arrange it, use different fonts, images, sections, color, typographic, picking different typography to emphasize stuff and not distract from it. So you're going to do everything I just did for your own page, which is going to be awesome. And tomorrow is the day we're finally going to get to it. We're not going to spin our wheels anymore. We're not going to write fake letters to people for breaking up, or we're not going to guess what a good email should look like. We're going to actually do it, right? The time for theory is over. It's about action now, baby. And we're going to talk about what you've learned. We're going to study examples. We're going to talk about what you've learned. We're going to study the great examples from the pros, and we're going to write your own versions over and over again until it becomes second nature for you. I'm super excited to take you there. So remember, every great copywriter has started somewhere. So there's been a lot of laying the groundwork. Now you get to put it into practice. It's your time to build that foundation that turns you into a copywriting machine. Back in the day, you would start with direct mail, but tomorrow, because we're very digital nowadays, we're going to start with emails. It's going to be a great starting ground for you to start practicing this. It's time to write something that matters. I'll see you tomorrow.